strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Chatham Airport Commission is being conducted via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling the phone number I just mentioned. I will repeat that, 508-945-4410, conference ID 282765-520#. Or you can join the meeting via Microsoft Teams at the link on the Airport Commission page, agenda page in the town website. Despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide for real-time access. We will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. Since this is a remote participation meeting, I'm requesting that the remote participants mute their audio and disable their video until the public comment time, or if it's sooner than the public comment time, I will let you know. So that way I can have on the screen in front of me just the commissioners. I may ask for public comment during the meeting, and when I do, those who can should use the raise or lower hand device in Microsoft Teams, and we will take you in order as best we can. If you are unable to use the raise your hand method or device and you're on your phone, just simply speak out and we will try to put you in a queue to speak. And we will do our best to get to all questions and comments, but we do reserve the right to cut off discussion at my discretion. At this time, I'd like to do a formal roll call of the commissioners. Commissioner Burke.
Here.
Commissioner Cortese.
Present.
Commissioner Donovan.
Here.
Commissioner Galen. Not yet. Yes. Mike, you're muted.
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Wilcox.
Here.
Commissioner Owens. Yes. You're muted, David. David, shake your head yes if you can hear me.
Yes.
There you go.
Here.
Okay, good. All right, and Commissioner Harrison here. So we have a quorum. I'd like to welcome new Commissioner Mike Cortese, who was just appointed after the last meeting in October. And I would like to let you all know and make sure you understand that all votes this evening are roll call votes. So please do not mute your mic if you're hearing something that sounds like a motion that's going to come up, please. In the meantime, if you want to mute your mic, that's fine. Also, if any of the commissioners or any of the public have anything else going on in their background, it really comes through on the microphones. So please try to keep your background noise as low as possible, especially shuffling papers near your computer. Also joining the meeting tonight are Mr. Terry Whalen, who's our staff liaison to the Airport Commission, Mr. Matt Karen, from Gale Associates. Mr. Karen, are you there?
Yes, Huntley, I'm here. I'm present.
Thank you. Mr. Tim Howard, Airport Manager.
I'm here, Huntley.
Thank you. Mr. Craig Rowe, Team IT Manager, and Mr. Mark Van Bork, Channel 18. All right. Moving on, we can go to the minutes of October 28th. And I want to know if anyone has any additions, deletions, or corrections on those minutes. If no one other commissioners do, I have a couple. So if you're following along on page 2 at the top, and if I'm getting feedback here, I'll turn my mic down. Hold on. There. Okay. I hope that's better. On page 2 at the top in the motion, it says Mike Galen moved to nominate as Peter Donovan vice chairman. It should be nominate Peter Donovan as vice chairman. That's at the top. At the bottom of that page, in the very last bullet before item B, the first word in the second line of that last bullet that starts with Chairman Harrison, it should be sections of the complaint, not compliant, sections of the complaint. And I believe I had one more. On page 6, second bullet. In the second bullet, the first word of the second line, it says auspices. I believe that should be authority. But they have authority over the commission.
Mhm.
And that's all I have. Did anyone else have anything?
I do.
Go ahead.
Page 7, first word of the 8th bullet on the page. My first name should be Mike, not Matt.
Yep. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, would someone make a motion, please, to accept the minutes of the October 28th meeting as amended?
I'm the minutes as amended from the October 28th meeting.
I second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay. Commissioner Burke,
Yes.
Commissioner Cortese. Commissioner
Yes.
Cortese, yes.
Yes.
Commissioner Donovan,
Yes.
Commissioner Galen,
Yes.
Commissioner Owens,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilcox,
Yes.
Commissioner Harrison, yes. Thank you very much. We'll move to the minutes of the December 1st meeting with the Board of Selectmen. I would assume they approved their minutes last night, but we have to do it as well. Did anyone find anything in there that they felt needed editing or correcting? Okay, on page 3, fourth bullet. Attorney Costello said the general bylaws list the standing committees, not stranding committees. On page 5, the second bullet that begins with juris extens should be combined with the third bullet. It's just the remainder of that sentence. It's all one big paragraph. So that should be combined. At the bottom of the page, last bullet, fifth line down, where it begins itself into their work, it was stated that the regulatory authority must be followed as it is laid out. Stated, not started. And that's it. Anyone have anything else? Would someone make a motion to accept the minutes of the December 1st joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen and the Airport Commission?
I make a motion.
As amended, excuse me, as amended. Did I hear a motion?
I make a motion to accept the December 1st minutes as amended.
Thank
I'll
you.
second it.
Thank you. Roll call, Commissioner Burke,
Yes.
Commissioner Cortese,
Yes.
Commissioner Donovan,
Yes.
Commissioner Galen,
Yes.
Commissioner Owens,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilcox,
Yes.
Commissioner Harrison. Yes. All right. That moves us on to the section for public announcement and agenda item requests. But before we go there, I'm going to read the policy that we have, just so everyone knows. Each Airport Commission meeting shall begin with the public announcements and agenda item requests. Following approval of minutes, this portion of the meeting shall not in its entirety exceed 20 minutes. Each recognized speaker during public announcements and agenda item requests shall keep his or her remarks to no more than 3 minutes. And I might remind you at this point that these are agenda item requests for the January 13th meeting, not for this meeting. We have a full agenda tonight, and those requests will be for the January 13th meeting. Generally, remarks that are to be considered appropriate for this portion of the meeting are those that do not encourage debate, but rather are more simply announcements, requests, or statements of interest. If a subject in the opinion of the chairman of the commission or the majority of its members would better be addressed as a future agenda item because it warrants public notice and or debate, then the chairman shall restrict the comments and or declare them out of order. Previous actions and or deliberations of the Airport Commission are not appropriate for discussion during public announcements and agenda item requests. And again, as I think the Board of Selectmen we're going to allow 3 minutes for the conversation. I also would like to notify everyone, if you do have a public announcement or agenda item request and we don't get it in this time period, you will have a 3-week period to submit for the January 13th meeting. If we have your request by January 6th, we will ensure that we get it into the January 13th meeting. That gives us time to process it, look at it, and respond as best we can. So, are there any public announcements or agenda item requests from the public? I'm going to see if I can get my participants list up here. David, you have the floor. You're the first one.
David Bixby?
Yes.
Yeah, you've already answered one of the questions. I wanted to know if we could get agenda item requests in by email, since this is always confusing online. You've answered that question.
Yeah, just send it to the Airport Commission,
Right.
and it'll get routed.
I would like to see an agenda item where the guard system is explained in some detail, how you get airport operational accounts for the airport. I'm very interested in how that works. I'd also
Okay, go ahead.
I'd also like an agenda item on the FAA contract offer for the airport master plan update. Condition 25 requires coordination with the Cape Cod Metropolitan Planning Organization. I'm very curious to know what you've done with that and how that's going and how it's taken place. So I'd like to see an agenda item on that. It's
Okay,
condition number 25 in the
I
item.
have it. That's, you mean assurance 25, right?
No,
No?
this is the contract offer from the FAA sets, I don't know, quite a few conditions. I think they're independent of grant assurances. Condition 25 requires the sponsor to coordinate its planning study with the Cape Cod Metropolitan Planning Organization.
Okay. Anything else?
That's it. I've
Okay,
sent you a couple of other emails.
all right. All right, let's see. Paula Lofgren.
Good evening, Huntley and Commissioners. I have an agenda item request if I could. Not knowing the extent of your review of Chapter 7 approach alternative this evening, I'd like to request an in-depth, detailed presentation and discussion of your most recent approach alternative choice. I request that this presentation include all maps, charts, graphics, narratives, etc., from the master plan update and the airport layout plan that are specific to this latest revision. The map should include all areas under the airport approach and address the implications of changes to the present approach for the residents in these zones, including the changes in decision altitude. And in keeping with your goal to improve communication with the public, I really would request that all of these documents be included in the meeting package so that they are easily accessible to the public for review. And lastly, I request that you publicize the meeting in which this presentation will take place at least 7 days beforehand via all media venues available so that the citizens are aware of the presentation and can participate remotely or view on Channel 18. Thank you.
Well, we will do our best for that, but it's actually Chapter 6 that you're referring to.
Well, tonight you're going to do some revisions of Chapter 7. So Chapter 6 alternative, whatever alternative that you've decided on.
But Chapter 7, when we get there, is really only the short-term plans, intermediate-term plans, and long-term plans that have been posted in the, only for planning purposes, in the master plan. It has nothing to do with approaches, other than perhaps the timing for when they might go in, but that's very flexible. We have no idea. A lot of it will depend on the environmental assessment outcome.
Cool. That's thank you very much for clearing that up. But there's still many of us who are not quite sure which map, which narrative, which set of parameters. So that would be great if it's the Chapter 6.
I'll work with Gail on that, and we'll see what we can do.
Thanks, Huntley.
All righty. Next, I have an EG.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's Elaine Gibbs. I do have a procedural question for tonight's meeting. Do I understand correctly that no public questions or comments will be permitted until the end of the meeting regarding the 6 new business agenda items?
Well, yes and no. When we get to item, let me see here, I'll give you the right letter. I believe it's item E, Citizen Advisory Committee. The commissioners will discuss, and then I will probably open it up to the public. Just so everyone knows, that is not going to be an action item tonight. There will be no vote. It's just discussion. All right, we'll talk about that more when we get there.
Yeah, and I would also ask that if perhaps the enhanced communication with the public also be open to the public, since we're the ones that would like to be able to communicate with you.
All right. I think
and if there is a policy change long term where we're not going to be allowed to comment on or ask questions on individual items, I think that should be an agenda item, because that is a policy change as far as I can see. Where
no, I believe that's up to the chairman.
Well, actually, no. I mean, it says public announcements.
I'm basically following what the Board of Selectmen do.
Yeah, well, the Board
They
of,
have a discussion session.
okay, the Board of Selectmen, before they did it, they made it an agenda item, and the public was allowed to weigh in as to the advantages and disadvantages of doing that, and then they took a vote. I don't think any items should be on an agenda where we are not allowed to participate, where a decision or a vote is being taken. And that is a policy change. And the Charter Review Commission did the exact same thing. They made it an agenda item and allowed the public to weigh in on it. So I am requesting that you have an agenda item to discuss whether or not that is considered a policy change and something that the public would like to weigh in on. And I would also request that this agenda is very full, and at the end, there's a whole array of things that are going to be discussed. To my knowledge, Chapter 9 has never even been discussed as
It
a
was. It was last summer.
no, well,
Last
actually,
summer,
it wasn't.
19, summer of 19.
I'm sitting here with my notes that I was going to make on the financial feasibility, and that never happened in the last year. So I would just ask that's still a big topic, and I don't think any decisions have been made, and I would appreciate it. I'm asking, you can deny me having it. I'm just asking you to make Chapter 9
Yeah,
an
yeah.
agenda
No.
item. And
We'll-
if you want to do it, it's your call, but does it say argue back and forth here under agenda item requests?
No, that's fine. I didn't realize that there was, that happened through an agenda item. So bear with me
There
here.
was no discussion last year about the
When we get
financial.
to, when we get to Chapter 7 and 9 tonight, we can open it up. Yeah. And you can mention, your concerns about Chapter 9.
And if you don't have time tonight, I'd ask that it be a more, rather than sticking it at the end, Chapter 9 is extremely important. The financial sustainability of the airport, I think, deserves its own meeting. And that's my request. If you choose not to do it, that's your call. But I think that would be a collaborative thing to do.
Yeah, I've already kind of planned that may happen tonight. So yeah, I'm aware of that.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for your input. Next here is Renee Haas.
Hi, Chairman Huntley. It's Renee Haas, and my agenda item request is very simple. Back in March, at the last meeting that the commission had, which I participated in before our basic shutdown for COVID, we did vote on a resolution to look into a public relations firm or some way of having public relations. And I think it ties in completely with enhancing the communications to the public. And with all due respect, having been on the commission, unless, one or two of the commissioners has the skills and the time to devote to the subject, I think that it's something that really is beyond the time and effort and skill of all the commissioners, and I think needs to be done, with a contract of some sort to an external party. And I just believe that there's been a lot of misinformation that has been distributed through the town, almost all of which has been quite comprehensively rebutted. However, those rebuttals and statements have been made in airport commission meetings, and really that's not nearly sufficient to really get the word of the truth about what the commission plans are. And so my request is to take that subject up at the next meeting, a discussion of how we can implement, how the commission can implement adequate communication to the entire Chatham community, not just the participants of the airport commission meeting, which aren't really representative of the whole community. Thank you.
And thank you. And thank you. Next up is Mr. Buckley.
Yes, thank you. I already have an agenda item request. It's actually at the last page of the packet that you have, where I was wanting there to be a session about, or a topic for discussion about the environmental assessment. There is something tonight on the environmental assessment and update, but I'm confused about whether, I do know a lot about FAA and environmental assessments, so I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to ask a clarifying question about the environmental assessment or what. And along with Elaine Gibbs, I guess I'd like there to be a separate agenda item that clarifies exactly what the policy is, not just for public announcements, but for public comment. And it could even be something where that it's all wrapped up together. I believe the Board of Selectmen have clarified what their trial public comment current policy is for public comment, but it would be nice if it was clarified before the meeting and not at the very beginning of the meeting when we don't know if we're going to be able to speak or about what or.
Well, when I get that organized, I will definitely post it. Yeah, I think both of those that you and Mrs. Gibbs are that's good. It's good to know.
Yeah, I still want it to be an agenda item request. Thank you very much.
Okay, those are agenda item requests. All right. Hearing no further or seeing no other hands up, and in fact, Mr. Buckley, if you could lower your hand, that way the queue can start over. And Commissioner Wilcox, you have a question?
No, I wanted to put through an agenda item. Is that?
For the next meeting? For the next meeting?
Yes, please.
Go ahead.
This is somewhat preemptive. And again, just listening to comments tonight, I know that the Airport Commission is very much concerned with becoming both inclusive and transparent with the public. So my agenda item, and again, this is preemptive, I would like to request that the commission delay discussion of chapter 7 and 9 for further commission meeting, with hopes that the citizen advisory, or whatever you'd like to call it, be involved with those chapters before they are submitted to the FAA. So again, I'd like to have a delay in the discussion. That's my agenda item.
That's not really an agenda item request. That's actually something that, you can bring up when we get to that bullet point.
Well, that's my agenda item request, to delay it.
No, like I said, when we get there,
Okay.
you can mention it. And like I said earlier, if we do run out of time, then we will delay it.
Well, I'm not asking if we run out of time. I'm just asking to delay it, period. But that's my agenda request. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you. Moving on, Airport Managers Report, Mr. Howard.
Here I am.
Okay.
All right. So welcome, Commissioner Cortese, first of all. And we have our manager's report for this meeting. First item, as usual, we have our guard reports attached. Actually, we have two. We have the 10th month and the 11th. So October, November. If there's any questions on those?
Tim, do you want to? Some people don't have those. Can you quickly share your screen with that, or is that not possible?
Not on
I'll do that, Commissioner Harrison. This is Terry.
Thank you, Terry.
Hold on. 1 second.
All right. So if there's any questions on that, we can come back to that one.
Okay.
Item 2, we have resumed fence line clearing and repair work on the outside of the airport's perimeter fence. If you recall, this past fall, we did majority or almost all of the inside fence perimeter work as projected by MassDOT with our current equipment and staff. So now we're starting on the outside of the fence, and we keep running into more storm damage and trees. So that work is ongoing. Item number 3, the Chatham Airport, Friends of Chatham Airport, or Christmas Elves, have raised $3,300 this holiday season for the Chatham Angel Fund that's run by Monomoy Community Services. In non-COVID times, generally this toy drive is actually a toy drive. They bring the toys to the airport, and we do a photo op with all the folks from Monomoy and from those who donated. And this is typically sponsored by Friends of Chatham Airport, who has recently put together a Facebook page to help in these community sponsor events that the airport supports. So if you look at that Facebook page in the future for more information on airport community related events. Item number 4, and I'm sorry for the mislabeling of the numbers here. I don't know what happened on my editing, but it wasn't good. So we have 2 number 3s. So actually this next item should be number 4. We got a request, or I got a request to explain or to find out more about Chatham Airport's role in some of the shark spotting that goes on here in this area of the Cape over the summer season. And there's really 2 key aspects to that. The first one is participation with Cape Cod Ocean Community, that's CCOC, their volunteer shark spotting program. Now, CCOC is a somewhat new organization, a grassroots organization that was started out of Orleans. Basically, a group of people are concerned with the safety of beachgoers and the white shark growing population off our beaches. So they have come together and formed Cape Cod Ocean Community, and one of their initiatives back early last year was to put together a volunteer program for area pilots and volunteers on the beaches, and to get those folks on the beaches equipped with airband transceivers, so aircraft that are flying up and down the outer beach to communicate with beachgoers if indeed we did see, or a pilot did see, a great white shark in the vicinity of beachgoers, surfers, windsurfers, kiteboarders, whatever. And that initiative was started and helped by one of our base pilots, Ian Day. He actually went to the FAA, excuse me, and secured frequency for that program to use. And there is a flyer for that program attached to the package here if you're interested. So basically, any pilot in the aircraft can participate that's flying in the area anywhere from Monomoy up to Provincetown. And they would simply transmit on that frequency. And if there are observers on the beaches with the equipped radios, they would hopefully be able to warn those folks in the surf or near the proximity of the shark. This program is constantly growing. This past 2020 season, CCOC got more radios and has gotten contact with some of the public safety officials, the lifeguards, harbor masters, to help get the word out as well and equip them with radios. So that is one of the large contributing factors local aviation and Chatham Airport does with the shark spotting. The second item, which is labeled as 4, but it's really number 5, is through Atlantic White Shark Conservancy. Many of you may be familiar with the Sharktivity app that Atlantic White Shark puts together that you can get on your phone to find out the recent sightings of great white sharks. Those sightings are generated by a variety of sources, but the major source is actually from aircraft-borne shark spotters, both base operators, some of our sightseeing aircraft, as well as some of the boat operators. There are dedicated shark spotters who operate out of Chatham Airport that work with Atlantic White Shark in conjunction with local boat operators and tour operators. And White Shark provides a biologist for so many of these eco tours, and the boat operators will hire an aircraft to spot sharks for them. And whenever the boat is put on a shark by the plane, the biologist from Atlantic White Shark will notate the position with their laptop, and that gets sent back to the web, and that gets put on Sharktivity. So a lot of the visual sightings you see are actually from Chatham-based aircraft spotters. Let's see. So that's number 5, we'll call it. And the next number 4, youth aviation careers at Chatham Airport. You can see the attached article that was in the Cape Cod Chronicle. We had a great event here with a lot of young folks, scouts, and young girls and boys that were interested in aviation, and potentially starting some new aviation-based learning, and some kids getting started on their way to become professional pilots. I think the article goes into enough detail on that, unless you've got questions. I don't have all the answers on that, but I'll try to answer anything I can. Item on the next page should be item number 7. Chatham Airport's Hangar B Eatery ran its Thankful Thursdays free meal program in conjunction with Monomoy Community Services this past Thanksgiving. This is a program where, with a special code provided by Monomoy to families in need, they can get a free turkey or Thanksgiving dinner from or prepared by Hangar B. So this is, I think, the 2nd or 3rd season that this has been done by Hangar B in conjunction with Monomoy. So they did a great turnout, and there was a flyer attached there. Thank you, Terry, attached for that as well. There is one item that's not on the list there, and it is attached to the package. It is a letter from MassDOT Aeronautics to the airport regarding the non-directional beacon maintenance funding. I have talked to Chairman Harrison about this, and Terry Whalen and town staff. So I believe you guys are going to discuss this tonight, so I won't go into any more detail unless there's some questions.
Tim, could you go back on the guard report just quickly?
Yes.
Yeah, just discuss it so people can see it. And
Okay, so you have 2 guard reports there. You have October and November. Typically, we wait till we have a complete month, so you're seeing the months in arrear. And with the COVID stuff, that kind of got us messed up. The last meeting, we had everything from March up to that time, and this takes us up to date here. So what you see there, I'll use the October one as an example. You'll see it says data processed on the 10th month of year 2020. You'll see there are 3 lines there that says amount of transmissions per plane arrival, that's set at 3. And then there's one that says transmissions per plane departure, that's set at 2. And then another line that says amount of vehicle maintenance, amount of maintenance vehicle transmissions per day. So this is a proprietary piece of software that MassDOT Aeronautics has bought all the smaller airports in the Commonwealth a few years back. It is proprietary. I cannot tell you how it figures these things out other than some very basics about it. The only things you can change are those 3 variables. And basically, you change those variables based on what most of your aircraft traffic, the number of transmissions your aircraft do for departure and arrival. So typically at Chatham Airport, for an arrival, you will have 3 radio calls, an initial radio call 5 miles out. You usually call your 45 or downwind leg, and then usually your base and final leg. So that's approximately 3. Some pilots call more, some pilots call less. So 3 is a good average that we found over trying this a variety of ways over the years. And then the second line is amount of transmissions per aircraft departure. Basically, it's a radio call when you're taking the runway, and then once you're airborne, announcing to the traffic pattern what your direction of departure is, and saying possibly last call, and that's generally 1 to 2 calls. So that's the number we've been using for that. So if you change those numbers, that makes the charts dance up and down. So we always try to keep it consistent, so the numbers are always based off the same variables. But how it calculates that, what logarithm it uses, is proprietary. We have attempted to find out, but the company that owns this it's patented, so there really is no more information I can provide to you other than that. This program runs on a dedicated computer up front in the lobby, and its only job is to do this and log these reports. If there, what else I can say about that?
well, I know Mr. Bixby had some questions about it earlier for an agenda item at the subsequent meeting. Mr. Bixby, if you can hear me.
Yes.
If you still want that, just send me an email, and we'll see if we can get you more information. But as Mr. Howard said, it's pretty much proprietary information. We don't know what plane called in or anything, if that's what you're
Maybe I
interested
can ask maybe that answers the question. I have one more question. I thought there were some other reports documenting the radio minutes or something to that effect. Is this the only report the system produces?
No, it does do the live recordings that it calculates. So we can go back and listen to some limited extent to what was said during some of those transmissions, if it was clear enough, and depending on how loud or far away the airplane was. But it does actually record them to the best of its ability. It is far from perfect. It has a fairly large error probability because it can pick up erratic transmissions. It can pick up a variety of things we found. So we try to adjust the antenna and the settings here to give our most accurate, same baseline results as best we can. But it is not a perfect system by any means.
So one last question, then you can drop the agenda item. Have you ever done any calibration of this where you actually do airport counts for a day and then compare them to the estimates?
We have from time to time, and if it's in the proper parameters, if the radio transmissions are nearby and it's set properly, then yes, it seems fairly accurate in that way. But how it calculates with the number of transmissions and into that chart, I can't tell you.
Okay.
Tim, I'm sorry, Mr. Bixby, you all set?
Yep. Thank you.
Okay. Yep, you're welcome. Tim, as I've been flying, not recently, but when I've been flying, sometimes transmissions for other airports come through.
That is absolutely correct. That is one of the sources of error. There are many other, that's a great point, Commissioner Harrison. There are many other airports in our area that we can actually hear that do use the same radio frequency that Chatham Airport uses. So on certain days, depending on atmospheric conditions, we can get radio calls from airplanes landing up at Provincetown, for example, or over at Katama. And that, of course, messes up the count on the guard system. So that is one of the many sources of error that it has. Yeah, that's an excellent point.
Okay. Generally speaking, though,
we estimate it's, it has probably a 30% plus or minus scale of error on it, and that's just from years of comparing what it comes up with numbers we have for fuel and for landing fees. But it's just a tool. It's not the end all be all. It's better than nothing, put it that way.
Could I ask non-commissioners to please blank their screen? Tim, I'd like to go back to the NDB, please.
Sure. To the letter?
Yes, to the letter. Because this is going to be an action item after we discuss it.
All right. So the letter basically, initially I received a call from MassDOT asking me to query the commission about taking over the maintenance expenses of the non-directional beacon located on Chatham Airport for the remainder of this fiscal year, at which time MassDOT would reimburse the commission, because MassDOT has basically agreed to pay for the maintenance of that unit as they have since the beginning of its installation through the end of fiscal year 2020, which is in July, I think, July 1st. So but because of internal accounting problems that they've had, I guess they got a new registrar or something there. That wasn't quite clear, but they no longer have a good mechanism to pay the maintenance vendor. So it is better for them and for their books to ask the airport to pay the maintenance vendor for the non-directional beacon, and then MassDOT will reimburse the commission through a grant for those costs.
Okay. And could you give us a little history about, just real quick, 25 words or less, of the history of NDBs in the state of Massachusetts and where this one stands?
Okay, so the non-directional beacon is a very, very antiquated piece of technology to give you a very limited instrument approach to an airport. Ours has been in service since, I believe, the late 50s. GPS eclipsed this. It is antiquated. However, if we are to remove it, it will reduce the number of safe approaches to our airport. So we would like to keep this going until such time as we have a replacement. But this is one of the last one of these units in the state. All the rest have been decommissioned. There are NDBs that are federally funded and state funded. We are the last state funded NDB in the entire state, and one of the last federally funded.
So MassDOT is really kind of doing us a favor by extending this through June.
Yes, they have done us actually an immense favor because they wanted to shut this down a number of years ago, and we asked them to not. And they were very receptive. But at this point, they have budgets, and the value to them of keeping it going is limited. It's definitely a monthly expense, but removing it would definitely reduce the level of safety at the airport. So for now, we definitely want to at least take advantage of this through July 2020, because MassDOT was still willing to pay for it through that time. It's just the mechanics of getting the vendor paid need to change due to their end.
Right. Commissioner Cortese, are you there?
Yes.
Yeah. From an instrument pilot's point of view, could you talk a little bit about the pros and cons of the NDB? Briefly, not in great detail, but I think the public would like to know.
There really, in today's environment, there are very few pros of the NDB, and not a lot of aircraft have the capability any longer, or that they're phasing it out. Basically, an NDB is just a beacon. It gives you no direction. It gives you no. It's a homing beacon. It gives you no
Guidance.
Guidance. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. To it, other than it's basically in the cockpit you have a instrument that points to it, and that's it. Other than and it gives you it really gives you no horizontal guidance. It gives you no vertical guidance. And it has a limited range. On this one particularly, we've had trouble sometimes reaching it outside of the final approach fix on the approach. That's why.
Would that be a circling approach?
Right, and on that, in that case, and for Chatham, it's in every NDB approach is a circling approach.
Okay.
Which is proven to be much less safe and also a much noisier approach to the airport.
Okay, thank you. I see a flight instructor, Jerry Plant. Do you have a quick comment, Jerry? You got to unmute. There you go.
Yes, I do. Just a point that the FAA within the last couple of months has run the flight test on an NDB approach. And as a result of that flight test and the degradation of the signal, they actually raised the minimums to 750 feet from 600. So that it's getting worse.
Yeah, I noticed the NOTAM on that.
Yeah, and a little historical information on NDBs. That's the beacon that Amelia Earhart was trying to find on Howland Island when she died.
How'd that work? Thank you very much. Just before we go on, Mr. Uxton's, your video is on. Could you please turn off your video? Thank you. Jerry, thank you. Peter, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just think it's important that we clarify the reason we're maintaining the NDB is it's currently our only instrument rated approach. So we do want to maintain it.
Right. So all that said, is there any further discussion from the commissioners?
I have
Commissioner
Huntley,
Galen?
I've got a question. I don't know.
Hang on. Commissioner Galen?
Just a quick question, Tim. Do you know how much the monthly maintenance charges are?
Yes, we did get the cost from the vendor. It's approximately, I think, $800 bi-monthly.
By month, so $400 a month.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Wilcox?
I have a question to go back to Tim Howard on something that on one of the pages he had, but when I'm understanding that they're going to be refunding by forming a grant. Is that one of the grants that restricts us? Oh, no, never mind. Forget that. Why can't we pay this out of the revolving account if it's only $800 a month, understanding that now we're getting rental income?
Commissioner Wilcox, we will be paying it out of the revolving fund after June 30th, but the state has offered to pay for it through that time. So hopefully if you all pass the motion I'm about to ask for, we will get the grant and we'll be good to go through June.
The MassDOT Aeronautics had previously committed through end of fiscal 2020, a year or two back. So they are trying to just make good on that promise.
Commissioner Burke?
I just want to be clear. It's 400 a month, correctly? Not 800.
400 a month.
Yes.
Give or take a little.
Yeah.
Depending on what he does.
Thank you.
All right. Hearing no other comments on this, I'm asking for a motion to have MassDOT fund the monthly monitoring and maintenance of the non-directional beacon through the end of the current fiscal year with end date June 30th, 2021, with the funding provided through the Airport Safety and Maintenance Program called the ASMP at 100% state funding in the form of a grant.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call. Commissioner Burke?
Yes.
Commissioner Cortese?
Yes.
Commissioner Donovan?
Yes.
Commissioner Galen?
Yes.
Commissioner Owens?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilcox?
Yes.
Commissioner Harrison? Yes. Passes unanimously. All right.
Huntley,
Yes.
can I ask Tim Howard a question about the article that was in the Chronicle? Just something that popped out to me. Would that be possible?
Yeah, sure. Before we move on, yeah.
Tim, on the last page of the Chronicle, they talk about having a seaplane airport established. What is that? And is that something that's in the foreseeable future at our airport?
No, I don't foresee that. I did not write the article nor give the interview, but Chatham at one time did have a seaplane base. It has long been closed due to tree and height restrictions in White's Pond. I don't foresee that ever becoming serviceable again. So I would answer is no, that is not accurate.
Thank you.
Commissioner, Mr. Whalen.
Yeah, just a quick clarification point. Does the commission plan on taking a vote? I think following up on Commissioner Wilcox's comment regarding taking the vote for going forward into FY22 as well as paying that out of the revolving fund. Just curious, as again, based on the values that the airport manager has presented.
Do we need another motion for that?
The motion you approved, doing the, kind of doing the
accepting the grant.
Yeah. So, but you did not make a determination on what happens at the end of that grant period if the commission is going to assume the NDB maintenance and paying that from the airport revolving fund.
Oh, would someone like to make that motion? We can get that clarified.
Do we need to do that now?
Yeah, Chairman Harrison. Chairman Harrison, I'd recommend that we can reconsider that at the time before when the reimbursement ends. Things may have changed by then. I don't think you guys. My opinion is I would not vote for anything now until such time as it's closer to that date.
Okay, that's fine.
Who was that speaking?
That was Tim, the airport manager.
That was Tim Howard.
Oh, okay.
All right. We move on to the engineer's report. Matt Karen.
Good evening, Huntley. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right, good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the Airport Commission. There are 3 projects that Gale Associates is administering on behalf of the Airport Commission at this time. The first one is the Airport Master Plan. There are 2 chapters, chapters 7 and chapters 9. Chapter 7, which is the schedule of improvements, and chapter 9, which is the financial self-sustainability chapter. Each of these chapters were presented at a Airport Commission meeting back on October 28th, 2019. We presented these chapters in detail. There were some comments received from the public and the Airport Commission, and as a result, Gale Associates went back and made some updates to each of these chapters. Unfortunately, because of other agenda items following the October 28th, 2019 meeting, and then subsequently the COVID-19 pandemic, the Airport Commission has not had an opportunity to revisit these chapters since that time. I do have the chapters and the updates as part of the Airport Commission's package for this evening. And Mr. Chairman, I believe you're going to be addressing these chapters later on in the agenda. So I will leave it at that for the time being, unless you have any questions on the master plan at this time.
I do not, but maybe someone another commissioner might. We are going to revisit this, but if there's a quick question from one of the commissioners. Not hearing one, we'll move forward.
I got one. Again, Huntley, I'm requesting that we withhold discussing them at this meeting and have it. Is that when I put through? Is that when I put through agenda?
We'll do that when we get there.
Thank you.
We'll discuss it when we get there.
He asked, so okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Matt.
Okay, Mr. Chairman. The next project is the Taxiway A project. There's been some updates on this since this agenda was actually sent out. All of the necessary documentation has been sent to the FAA, and this project is going to be coming off of Gale's update moving forward. We're going to be starting to take steps to actually close this project out with the appropriate paperwork, working with the FAA and Mass DOT. So I have nothing new to report this month on the Taxiway A project.
All right.
The environmental assessment, I mentioned last month that our sub-consultants were going to be mobilizing over the next several weeks. That is actually happening this week. The archaeologist that is working with us on the EA was out at the airport doing a phase 1 intensive archaeological survey. That work, shown on the agenda, was scheduled to start December 7th, and they have been out there doing their work. We have Blue Sky Geospatial, who's been doing the aerial photography and the mapping for us. They've provided us with that information. We're analyzing those results, and we will be presenting the results of that and illustrating for the commission and the public at a future commission meeting. Some of the parcels that have trees in question that the Airport Commission is going to likely consider removing at some point in the future. So I will have plenty of plans and maps describing and showing those areas for everyone to consume. Similarly, we were doing a topographical plan of the bike path to see if there was going to be any impacts of the proposed master plan projects on that bike path. We received that information back from the sub-consultant. We're in the process of analyzing that data and information as we speak. Similarly, we'll be presenting and illustrating plans showing any impacts to that bike path, if any, at a future commission meeting. And lastly, GZA Geo-Environmental, they're the environmental firm that's supporting us on this project. They will be going to the airport and they'll be helping us start the vegetation management plan. We're not expecting to get that process moving with the sub-consultant until mid-December, the end of December at this point in time. So stay tuned. There will be more on the environmental assessment. I know there are a lot of burning questions with respect to the EA, parcels to be affected by future tree clearing, impacts associated with the alternatives that the Airport Commission has selected as part of the master plan, and all of that will be presented at future commission meetings in great detail. So that's all I have for now on the EA, and I'd be happy to answer any questions on that project or any of the other 2 that we presented.
I don't have any questions, but I do have, well, actually, are there any questions on the report? I've got some hands up. I'm going to have to go back as we moved ahead into the NDB. discussion, I failed to accept the airport manager's report. We'll go back to that, but let's take, while we're here and before we accept this one, we have some questions. I've got some hands up here. Commissioner Burke, did you have a question? Your hand was up?
Nope, sorry.
Okay. Commissioner Wilcox, same with you. Your hand's up? Nope. Mr. Bixby?
No, wait.
Yeah, could you
I
just
have-
briefly, Matt, could you explain what's meant by vegetative management? Is that on airport property or is that outside of airport property? What is
Yeah,
it?
no, that's a good question. So yeah, in order for the airport to do tree clearing, particularly in wetland resource areas, which we're going to be identifying if and where those exist on and off airport, the vegetation management plan simply identifies different types of vegetation that exist both on and off airport property, and we put together methodologies for future tree removal activities. So if you can appreciate, there's areas on airport property where there's lower growing vegetation, smaller, brushes and bushes and such like that, and areas that are maintained on a, monthly basis by the Airport Commission. We simply delineate between those areas so that the Airport Commission has a plan in place that illustrates where, rough mowing may occur, where drop and lop activities may need to occur on larger trees and stuff like that. So in a nutshell, it just basically breaks down the different type of vegetation management activities to occur and where they'll occur.
Okay, is that a public document for off-airport property?
It will be a public document. It'll be presented in full to the Airport Commission and I presume in front of everyone during a regularly scheduled commission meeting. So yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Matt,
Commissioner Galen?
quick question, Matt.
Yep.
In 2000, when the 2003 master plan was done, was an EA produced at that time?
Yes, following the
Oh, it was.
2003 master plan, there was an environmental assessment completed for the projects that were a result of the master plan at that time, yes.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, who's next? I've got Commissioner Buckley. I'm sorry, Mr. Buckley.
Just Mr.
I'm elevating you.
Okay. Thank you. Just by the way, in 2003, I asked Gale Associates, it was not Mr. Karen, but his predecessor, I suppose, for a copy of the environmental assessment once it was done for the runway extension, and I never received it, so I never had a chance to review it. But that's basically my question or comment now is that at what point would the public be able to comment and provide feedback on things that were missing or improved or whatever as far as the draft that is produced by the consultant?
Are you talking about the current EA, or do you want to go back and see the one?
No. I that just came up. The 2003 came up, and I was like, yeah, I didn't get it then, but I'm not waiting for it anymore. I was just saying.
As Mr. Karen said, when it's ready and it's published, we will devote an entire meeting, probably maybe even two, to the environmental assessment.
And it is typically the case with environmental assessments that are required by the federal government for the public to have ordinarily 30 days to comment on a draft. Mm-hmm. So it's not just going to be here you go, we're done. And no, I'm just pointing out that, and that's part of the environmental law agenda item request, so that people can understand, the public, and you all too, as well. This is how environmental assessments are drafted and commented on and approved eventually by the federal agency. So it's not just a PowerPoint presentation one time.
Mr.
Thank you.
Buck, you can rest assured that we will give it its due, and if there's a 30-day comment period, we will make sure that we do that.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
You can trust us. Let's see, who's next? Mr. Wilson.
Hi, thank you, Chairman Harrison. Good evening. Matt, you mentioned in your presentation, chapters 7 and 9 back in October of 2019. In October of 2019, you presented a flow chart that had next steps on it that mentioned chapters 7 and 9. But after that, it talked about a full draft of the airport master plan, and then a review of public comments on the full draft, and then the Airport Commission approving the full draft of the master plan, and then submitting that draft to the funding agencies for approval. And the step after that was then the airport layout plan would be submitted to the FAA. So this is a document, this flow chart, it's up on the Airport Commission website. If you go to Airport Master Plan Update and then look for process overview graphic, it's dated 9/30 of 2019. How did we go from, I would imagine, a commission approved process flow chart that shows the airport layout plan being sent after the FAA approved the draft airport master plan to one where it got submitted in June of 2020? And if you're not prepared for that tonight, I'd be happy to wait until next month and listen to how all those other steps in between got overridden. And we pretty much went from all those steps done right down to here. But that's my question.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I don't have that flow chart in front of me per se, but I do know that all of the necessary requisite chapters that needed to be approved by the FAA were approved by the FAA following Airport Commission approval. So the airport layout plan was set to go to the FAA for their review. So Chapter 7 and Chapters 9, which are still outstanding, don't prohibit or prevent the FAA from actually weighing in on the airport layout plan. They actually have nothing to do with the airport layout plan.
Right, but my question more is what you told the public, because I remember leaving that October 28th, 2019 meeting and feeling that we had a significant period of time to review things in the master plan before the airport layout plan would be submitted. And that turned out to not be the case. And since this is something that's, to me, an official document and up on the Airport Commission website, to me, I feel like I wasn't given proper opportunity to react to an airport layout plan, because we were told it would happen after the whole process had completed. In fact, the last step on this flowchart is the project is closed out because the airport layout plan got approved. That's the last step. And we skipped a whole bunch of in-between steps. It's not so much that it was Chapter 7 and 9, it's that we skipped the steps.
Mr. Chairman, again, not having the flow chart in front of me, I'll have to take a look at that, but I do not believe that there were any steps that were skipped in terms of the appropriateness for submitting the airport layout plan to the FAA.
Okay. Okay, but again, that's not what I'm questioning. I'm questioning that the public was told that it wouldn't happen until a point later in time. That's what I'm questioning, Mr. Chair. And so if the commission could address that, maybe not tonight, but maybe at a future meeting, I think that would be helpful. I mean, we're here at a time when we're trying to have transparency in the process. And when the commission's website shows a document with a flow chart that got overridden, it would be interesting to know why that happened and how it happened and when it happened.
All right, I'm taking a note on that. It's basically you're questioning the order of events.
Well, yeah, and the appropriateness of telling the public one thing and then doing something different.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We'll take one more question. Mrs. Gibbs.
Yes, thank you. I would just like to agree with Mr. Wilson on that, because I had said we hadn't discussed at legs 7 through 9. I started coming to the meetings late last summer, and I remember vividly in September where you were just presenting the AMPU and you had insisted that this was just a preliminary, that we were going to be discussing the chapters in detail before any decisions were made. And I would just refer you to the agenda items, which I just looked up on February 25th, which was canceled. You were supposed to have a public discussion on chapter 1 through 4. And that didn't happen. And apparently there was some discussion on March 10th. 5 and 6 was supposed to be discussed on March 24th of this year. That never happened. And April 7th, 28th, May 26th, June 23rd were all canceled. The most recent meeting was October 28th. There has been no discussion about chapters 5, 6, 7, 9, and I guess there's an 8 because I haven't been following it. So for, as Mr. Wilson said, you're telling us one thing, but this has moved forward and there's been no public discussion. And I have been paying attention since I got involved last fall. And that's how it's been presented to the public. Now, if you're doing something else, just tell us, because we spend a lot of time preparing for meetings and we haven't had an opportunity to discuss any of them. And to put 7 and 9 at the end of this agenda after probably it's going to be 2.5, 3 hours, I think is unfair. It deserves its own meeting. And I think we have to go back and do 5 and 6 because that was canceled. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, the best I can say right now is that we will take it under advisement and we will try to remedy the situation as best we can. I will say this, well, actually, I'm going to say something in a little bit, but so just stay tuned. Let's have a motion, please. Will someone make a motion to accept the engineer's report?
So moved.
Second?
I second.
Okay. Roll call vote. Commissioner Burke.
Yes.
Commissioner Cortese.
Yes.
Commissioner Donovan.
Yes.
Commissioner Galen.
Yes.
Commissioner Owens.
Yes.
Commissioner Wilcox.
Yes.
Commissioner Harrison. Yes. And I would also like to entertain a motion to accept the airport manager's report.
So moved.
Move.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call. Commissioner Burke.
Yes.
Commissioner Cortese.
Yes.
Commissioner Donovan.
Yes.
Commissioner Galen.
Yes.
Commissioner Owens.
Yes.
Commissioner Wilcox.
Yes.
Commissioner Harrison. Yes, it carries. Okay. Before we go on to, I guess, the other items on the agenda, item B, item D. I don't know how that became D, but I guess item B should be C, and so on. I would like to just start off. I meant to do this a little earlier, and we got wrapped up. And please excuse me. This is my second meeting as a chair, and I'm still getting used to a lot of things. But anyway, before we get to the formal parts of this evening's meeting, I would like to make an opening statement. The Chatham Airport Commission, being the custodian of the airport, is first and foremost committed to promote the safety and security of those who use the airport, as well as those in the surrounding community. To do this, we support the modernization of the airport, not its expansion. We encourage noise reduction in the Fly Friendly program. We promote the local and regional economic benefits and job opportunities provided by the airport. We recognize the important role the airport plays in medevac flights, Angel Flight, and Coast Guard search and rescue operations, not to mention the many other operations carried out for business, research, and pleasure. And we encourage and enable community interaction with the airport. Chatham Airport is a gem, and we plan to work with everyone to keep it that way. Also, I would like to add that the Airport Commission endeavors to provide the community with information and data that explains and clarifies its mission, in particular the master plan update, as well as its responsibility to the town. We will discredit misinformation and ensure that the processes and procedures of the commission are transparent. To the Chatham community, as you may have read in the paper, there is and has been a great deal of incorrect and exaggerated information about the master plan update disseminated over the past several years. And I ask you to please be aware of these fabrications. If you have any questions about the impact of what the Airport Commission is doing or planning via the master plan update, please come to commission meetings or email the commission and we will respond as soon as practicable. Thank you. I also have one final thing. In an effort to manage the workload on the Airport Commission, I have asked the commissioners if they would take on certain tasks for which they would be responsible and to make a report at the monthly meetings beginning in January 2021. They have all agreed to these tasks listed as follows. Commissioner Burke will handle the airport revolving fund and report on that. Commissioner Donovan will handle airport maintenance and operations. Commissioner Cortese, general aviation. Commissioner Owens, the fisherman's storage area. And Commissioner Wilcox, I'm sorry, Commissioner Galen, I don't know if I mentioned this, external communications. And Commissioner Wilcox, community issues. And we will now proceed with the regular commission meeting. Sorry for that brief interruption. All right.
Huntley, this is Terry. Quick, just you did mention you were going to take a vote on the airport manager's report as well.
I think I just did.
We did.
I did.
You did the engineer's report.
I did, and then I went back and did the manager's report, and it was voted unanimously.
Okay. Sorry.
That's all right. Okay, Mr. Bixby, real quick. You got to unmute. Sorry, can't hear you.
Got it. When you talk about misinformation and fabrications, I would really like it if you could post or something. None of us know what you're talking about when you say make general statements like that. If you could come up with these specific items of misinformation or fabrications and even just post them online so we can at least look at them and try to understand where that misinformation is. And then maybe we can address it specifically rather than generally, which is very difficult to do.
All right,
I would like a mechanism to address these.
I was giving my opinion, and we are working on that. And we will, between now and January, I'm hoping that when we reorganize the website, that we will be able to post that information out there.
Be specific if you could. Thank you.
Yeah, it will be. Don't worry. Okay. Commissioner Wilcox, question before we move on to
not a question, just a statement. You just told me that I was going to be in charge of community issues. I haven't spoken to anyone.
I wrote you an email on that, and or I talked with you, and you said you wouldn't mind.
I haven't not talked to you about it, Huntley. This is the first time.
Go back and check your emails, because I don't know whether I actually spoke with you. I wouldn't say it if I hadn't spoken with you, believe me. So look at your emails and double check. If you don't.
Well, I also know that you didn't respond to my request about information from somebody to contact with the FAA. That I do know.
I haven't had.
I will double check on. I have not spoken to you about this, Huntley. I will gladly take that as a role, but I would please, before you start offering me up for.
No. Like I said, I wouldn't have done that had I not spoken with you. And I don't. You and I can talk about this offline. All right. Moving on. We've got the hangar lease modification. We have a request from an airplane owner to continue to occupy a hangar that he has been subletting over the past year or so. And the information is in the package. And I hope everyone has read that. But I felt it was important for the sake of transparency, that we put this out there so that people could see it. The individual who had the hangar originally sold his airplane, and he started subletting it prior to the airport commission taking over the hangars. And he was subletting it through this year. And he has since moved out as of November 30th. And what I would like to do, because of the fact that he's been in there and there's no violation of the lease agreement, as I say at the bottom of that paragraph, since there's no lease in force, there's no violation, and based upon the above, the Airport Commission Chair recommends that Mr. Love shall retain occupancy of Hangar 7A, and upon signing the lease agreement will be the lessee of record for Hangar 7A as of December 1st, 2020. Any comment? I've got a couple. All right. Susan, is your hand still up, or is this a comment on this?
Well, no, I just have a couple of questions.
On this?
This particular issue, yes. The new leases were supposed to be effective in January of this year, is that correct?
January of 2020.
It's now December 2020. Why was no lease signed in almost 12 months?
Because I don't think his airplane was in there.
Again, why was no lease signed?
I can't answer that.
Okay, then my next question would be how many, first make a request. I'd like to have a request to have a copy of all the leases, current leases for all town-owned hangars. That's number one. And do you know how many leases have not been signed of current?
Well, the one I just mentioned, and I think there's one other that I'm waiting on.
And this is almost 12 months. That's a question or a statement.
Right.
I don't think this is a very effective way to be running it, Huntley. Thank you.
Thank you. I will follow up and report back at the next meeting. Let's see, I've got another hand up here. I don't know who CEB is.
Hi, this is Carol Bliss. I have a question going back when I had my hand up, but it wasn't seen. Why are there no public comments on the AC website since January? I know I've submitted comments, but I don't see any updated comments. There was a real string of comments during our last meetings before the COVID. Do you know why there's no comments posted?
No, I can't answer that. We're working on it. All I can say is we're working on it. I think in January, I think you're going to see, hopefully pleasantly surprised that a lot of this information will be out there. I do know that there are some letters were answered and they were posted in January. If you go to the website and look at the correspondence, I think you'll see some things answered there. But beyond that, there really wasn't much correspondence over the last 7 months.
Jared, turn the TV off.
Okay. Does that help, Carol? Are you still there? All right. David, you're next. You got to unmute.
I had it unmuted, then I muted it again. I was told not too long ago that there is, in fact, a waiting list for hangars. And so my question, and this goes back, I don't know, 6 months or so. If there was a waiting list for hangars and this guy moved into this hangar or sublet the hangar, wouldn't that mean he displaced somebody on the waiting list?
No.
So shouldn't that open hangar go to the next person on the waiting list?
As far as I know, there's no waiting list for these hangars.
Well, that I did a Freedom of Information request or public records request, and I received a list of names from Tim Howard, the manager, in response to a request for the waiting list. So there is, is Tim still there, Tim Howard? Ask him what he gave me if that wasn't the waiting list.
I don't know if he's still there.
I think you get where I'm going with this. I think you really need to clean up the management of the hangars and make it all public. And have a hangar policy that is public and everybody knows everything.
Well, we can discuss that at the next meeting. In fact, I think I've got it on the future agenda items for next meeting to discuss hangar policy. What I'm trying to do is find out from the town what they have already in place for policies similar to that, and then try to tailor it to the airport hangars. Okay. You gotta understand the managing these hangars is something new for the commission, and we got off.
It shouldn't be.
I hate to say it, but we got off to a very bad start with the lease agreement and the wording of that, and then the COVID. I mean, it was just it was a mess, and we're trying to clean that up right now. Sorry it upset some people, but you know, it is what it is, and we're doing the best we can to get that straightened out.
Transparency.
Yep, that's what I'm working on.
Good.
Thank you. EG.
Yes, Elaine Gibbs. I think you may have clarified it. Are you saying that it's the airport commission that's responsible for getting the leases signed rather than the airport manager? No,
the commission. We own the hangars now. We are responsible for it.
Okay.
Okay.
So I think you need to check on the wait list, because I heard the same thing that David Bixby did, that there is a wait list. And I think for someone to not sign a lease and then lease it out, knowing that that's not the policy, you're not supposed to do sublet, and then have that person rewarded by getting it ahead of somebody else, I think is inappropriate and it's a bad precedent. So I would hope that you look into that and see if there's a wait list, because you should know if there's a wait list from the airport manager.
Thank you. I will check into it. All right. So do I have a motion for this, please, from a commissioner?
Motion.
The motion.
Motion to accept the hangar. Go ahead.
Yep. Go ahead.
Motion to accept the hangar lease modification.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call. Commissioner Burke?
Yes.
Commissioner Cortese?
Yes.
Commissioner Donovan?
Yes.
Commissioner Galen?
Yes.
Commissioner Owens?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilcox? Commissioner Wilcox?
No.
Okay. Commissioner Harrison? Yes. Okay. Carries 6-1. And I will look into the wait list situation. But as far as I know, there wasn't a wait list, so we'll find out. Okay. The next topic is the enhanced communication with the public. The one thing we would like to do is set up an email notification list. So if you want to get direct emails from the commission, I think Mr. Whalen is putting it on the screen now. You can subscribe to our email notification sign up. Anyone who wants to get in, topics of interest from us, things that will probably be posted at meetings, things that come into us that we think might be interesting, we can ship out to you if you'd like to be on that list. We would like to get information out prior to meetings as things happen, rather than waiting until the next month to notify the community of things like that. And Mr. Whalen, is this active now?
So this is not active. This is just, so we're still working out some of the details of this, but this is, the direction Again, as the chair just mentioned, and again, I'm sorry, this is Terry Whalen, Airport Commission Staff Liaison, because I don't have my camera on. Hopefully you can see the screen. So again, the concept is to identify and make it very simple for persons interested in subscribing to basically an email notification list to be informed of items as they become ready to be announced, such as maybe an announcement availability or posting of the EA or other items down the line is used as one method of increasing enhancement. I know the chair's already spoken, I believe, at both the previous meetings and I think even earlier this meeting on potentially newspaper ads and other items to get information out at certain times. But the concept here is to make it as easy as possible for persons to subscribe to that email notification list. People can send in even right now, just even sending an email using the regular email if you want to start doing that. But we are working on this way to do it very easily so that people don't have to, they can just, if they get to the Airport Commission page, it'll be basically right up in front on how to subscribe.
Okay. Before we get into discussion, I want to go through the website. So, Terry, if you could go to the next page, please. This is what the website basically looks like now. And you'll see that we have the Airport Commission page, landing page, and so on. And then when we get down into airport governance, these are all the standard bullets that are in existence now. And if you go down, if you can show under the AMPU draft documents and public comment submission, that's what we're going to work on. And when we get to the last slide in this presentation, you'll see what we're planning. And I think we can go there now. The pages in the middle, I think everyone has seen. It's just what the website looks like now. So if we get to this, there we go. So our focus for our enhanced communication with the community is, besides the email, we've got the landing page, which is the overview of facts and landing links. And then each of those will be links to various subtopics below it. Like I say, this is a work in progress. Nothing is carved in stone yet, but this is kind of the way we hope it looks. And if anyone has any commissioners have any comment on what they've seen here, if you would like to discuss that now, we can do that. And then I'll ask the public. I think probably what we'll do as the reports from the various commissioners come in over the ensuing weeks or months, each commissioner, possibly we can have a page and you can submit your report after the meeting and we'll post it. If there's a month where you don't have a report, that's fine. So there's no obligation to have a report, every month. But at the same time, at least we can get it out there for conversation and for the public to take a look at. Any commissioners want to comment? Okay. If not, we've got some public. Mr. Buckley?
Right. Thank you. I would suggest looking at that chart there that there be a connection to the town of Chatham's policy on public participation. It was adopted
on the town site.
Nope, it's not there. The town of Chatham, during town meeting, I think it was 2015, the town of Chatham adopted core values of public participation, and they never got posted on the website. So this would be a good opportunity to finally get the town manager or whomever to upload them on so people can see what was passed at town meeting as far as core values.
Okay.
And the second thing would be to link to the FAA guidance in the form of an advisory circular about community involvement in the planning process, so people can see what FAA thinks. Not a requirement, but at least it, with their experience on many airports, how community involved, how they think and suggest and advise proponents to conduct community involvement. So that would be helpful.
All righty. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ms. Lofgren?
Oh, yes. Getting used to this. I have a couple of questions. If you could pull up airport-related documents page. I have a question about that.
Is it a question about the page or the content? I'm not getting into content.
Pardon?
I'm not going to get into content tonight.
Oh, no. I was wondering about a post. And that is, if you look, it has documents going from only going back as far as January 1973. I wonder if you could put up on this page whatever happened between 1949 and 1973. In the joint meeting the other day between the Board of Selectmen and the Airport Commission, there were mentioned a couple of happenings that happened between 1949 and 73. And I was wondering if it's possible to put up there anything and everything for the history of how the airport has come to where it is.
If they
And
exist,
I have one
I'm sure
other
they do exist. It's just digging them out. Probably having to scan them and then get them into a format that we could post. Because I'm sure they're all just paper copies of whatever it happens to be. But I don't know. I've written a note on that, and we'll look into it for.
That's awesome. Can I have?
Someone's got to mute their microphone. There's something going on in the background that's interrupting the meeting.
I wonder if I have one other question, if I could, Huntley, and that is on the Chatham's main page, the town website, chathammass.gov.
I can't answer that.
Well, it's in your presentation.
Well, yeah, but that's just a picture of the page.
The one thing that has happened a lot over the past is that people have been told they should have known there was an airport here. And I've talked to a lot of new residents who, if they buy from off-peak, or if they buy during off-peak, in January, February, they're not aware of an airport. And I actually went looking on the main page. And in order to find out that Chatham has an airport, you have to go to boards and committees and then dig down deep to the Airport Commission page or the green box with the CQX. But if you don't know to look there, you can totally miss that we have an airport. I didn't know if there was any way to put just even the fact that a link to the airport info on information for visitors, information for, find it fast, it says, or even the little icon of an airplane, so that people who are new to Chatham, looking to find out about the community, would easily be able to identify that we have an FAA sponsored airport here. Am I?
Well, I've been looking into this a little bit, and it's my understanding, and I'm not a real estate agent, but it's my understanding that real estate agents are required to give full disclosure of, especially if the people are buying a house near an airport. Now, whether or not they do it, whether they're bound to do it legally, I do not know. And that's true. I mean, whether they buy off Cape or a real estate agent on Cape, I don't think it matters. I think the real estate, and like I said, I'm not a real estate agent, so I can't really say that, but I would hope that a real estate agent would give disclosure that, hello, Mr. So-and-so, your house is in an approach zone. That's liable to have, trees removed if you're in such a position. That kind of thing I think is important for people to know. And whether or not real estate agents is not we can't force that. That's up to real estate agents, and I don't know who else would be responsible for that. But I think, to me, it's almost a caveat emptor type of thing. If you move into a town, there's an airport, ask the question.
But that's just the point. If you look at the Chatham website for the town of Chatham, there's no way to know that there's an airport here. So I'm just thinking, just for general knowledge, here's Chatham. Chatham has sharks. Chatham has an airport. And this is how you get to it.
On the front page that there's sharks?
No. Well, if you look at Find It Faster, if you look under visitor information, it doesn't have to be any information, but even an icon somewhere that identifies the fact that we have an airport.
Well,
just a thought, Hunley.
I would suggest that you take that up with the Board of Selectmen.
Okay, thanks.
Because I can't say yes, we will do something there, because it's not our purview to do that.
Mm-hmm. It is my understanding that there is no disclosure in Massachusetts, but I'm not sure either whether or not.
I don't know the law. I would hope that a real estate agent would say, something to that effect.
Thanks, Hunley. Thanks for your time.
You're welcome. Mr. Rowe.
Good evening, Chairman Harrison. Just to cover some of the communication questions that have been out there. The town is working on a user-friendly design for our town webpage. We are taking suggestions from the general public if they would like to provide suggestions for the town website. We do understand that the site is a little bit cumbersome at this time. We are looking at building a easier to use document repository where there will be all the documents related to the Airport Commission, public records requests, any of the applicable documents in a little easier to manage form. This upgrade should be done by the spring. And you can find, if you would like to suggest any website suggestions, if you go onto the Town of Chatham main page, you will see on the left-hand side under Chatham Action Center, there's a website suggestions button. If you'd like to fill out some information in there that's applicable, the designer of the website and the IT manager, Ryan Darman, will be getting these suggestions, and we can post them up for you guys if we find that they are applicable to the town's website.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll be back. I'm back. I had to step away for a second. So I hope that answers some questions. Thank you, Craig. I think that's going to help. It's going to help us, and I think it'll help the general public. All right, moving to former Commissioner Haas. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman Harrison. I welcome the updates to the website and some of the things that make it easier to access and find information. So I think that's good. The big question, of course, has to do with when, and in line of improving communications. I think we're in a very critical phase with respect to all the discussions about the airport, the master plan, and I am aware, as you are, that there are key documents that are actually in the public domain that have been prepared by our consultant, Matt Caron, and these are some documents that have been available or prepared back in the spring. This is when we had our COVID, and those documents are very specific and make rebuttals of the key misinformation, and those are questions that were asked by a number of people in the public, including Mr. Bixby. Well, there are very extensive and specific, examples of misinformation that are quoted and are thoroughly rebutted. And regardless of the structure, I think what's most important is that information be put into the website so that it is generally available. It can be reviewed by all members of the public and the newspaper to go and perhaps have follow-up interviews with the people that are involved, so that we can facilitate the process of coming to what's correct and what's true. Because right now, I believe that the misinformation dominates, the perception that people have of what's going on with the Airport Commission. So that'd be my request.
Thank you. I would like to add just quickly for the general public, and I think if you listen to the meeting the other night, the joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen, we don't have staff other than Mr. Whalen. And some of the things that need to be done, it takes time. I mean, I have a job that I don't have time to spend every day working on answering airport emails and things like that. I do the best I can, and I'm hoping to be able to farm out some of that to perhaps some of the other commissioners and as we go forward. But not having a staff does make it difficult. And Mr. Whalen is our liaison, but at the same time, he's also very busy with regard to his town work. And I just can't call on him all the time to do something. So we're working on that. I promise you, I've got some ideas that I'm going to put forth, and hopefully by the time the next meeting rolls around, I'll have some answers for that respect. But we'll try to get things done in a more a quicker fashion and a more expedient way. Okay.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Huntley.
And I know some of the documents you're referring to because I believe when you were a commissioner, you and I worked on them. So I'm familiar with those, and we're going to try to get those out.
That's right.
Okay.
I participated, but I think more importantly, these, some of the key documents were actually presented by Matt Caron, our aviation consultant. So it's really an outside subject matter expert that that we're depending on because for good or bad, there have been questions about the validity of some of individual commissioner comments. So thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, Mr. Bixby, I believe you're next in the queue.
Before David.
Yeah.
A quick comment on what Paige just talked about.
Hang on, Mike.
Huntley, I just wanted to comment on the real estate disclosure. That is not required in Massachusetts, is my understanding from previous investigating into that. However, having said that, the FAA, under the grant assurances, puts the onus on the airport sponsor, among other things, to try to disclose to prospective home buyers that are going to buy property in the area of the airport. They want the sponsor to be responsible for trying to notify prospective homeowners of the potential for conflicts with the airport. So there is a responsibility there with the Airport Commission, and offline I could, if you want to contact me, I can point out to you in the assurances where that is discussed. And I'm glad that Renee Haas agrees with me that we need to identify the sources of misinformation and all that. So thank you.
Right. You're welcome. Thank you. Commissioner Galen, real quick.
Renee, in response to what you were talking about, if you look at that chart that was up before on the proposed changes to the airport web pages, the bottom right, it actually talks specifically about questions and responses. It's set up right now to be a section of the revised website. The bottom right, AMPU FAQs for detailed topics and responses. So we're already taking that into consideration when it comes to AMPU, and we'll go from there when further discussions occur that generate the same kind of questions needing responses. This will be the first of those going forward.
Okay. Thank you for your comment. Who's next? Commissioner Cortese. Mike, you there?
Yep. Yes, thank you, Chairman Huntley. I just wanted to make a comment regarding the availability of information for an airport. On exit 11, and I just confirmed it on Google Maps, there's a sign that says Chatham Municipal Airport. I know there are signs in several places around the town that point to Chatham Municipal Airport. So I just wanted to point that out. And then also, I don't know about other people, but when I look for a piece of property, there's a number of resources, and I look for signs, I look for airports, I look for highways, industrial areas, railroads, whether they're active or not. And those are all in the criteria when you do your search. That's all I had to say.
All right, thank you. You know, as I've said earlier, it's almost like, a person buying a piece of property, they have to do their due diligence. And frankly, I see a disconnect between someone coming into to town to buy a piece of property and knowing, how would they know that they need to see contact the sponsor, which, whether it's the town offices or whether it's the airport commission acting by and through the town. I don't know. I don't know how they would actually find that out without doing their own homework and their own due diligence. We have signs. We have signs on the highway. We have signs, at Missouri saying airplane rides, I guess. I don't know. It's a tough one.
I didn't have any, when I bought in Chatham, I didn't get contact from the town till after I was a homeowner. That's when you hear from the town. That's when you're not notified prior to purchasing from anyone in the town, except your realtor.
Correct, Mike. And there's also, the airport commission is on the town website. So if you were perusing the town website to do research on the town you're buying into, say for tax purposes or any other information, you'd find that there's an airport on the town website.
Right, and its location and so on.
Right, and it's a small town.
It's a topic that I guess will go on. Certainly, it's not. I don't think it's going to happen quickly, but if we can get the word out, I'm thinking of writing a letter. I'm thinking about it. I'm not ready to do it yet, but writing a letter to some of the real estate agents, not that in town, not that it'll help off Cape real estate agents, but writing a letter to them and say, when you have someone buying a town in these areas, give them a map and say, look, please tell your buyers that this is where they're buying. And if there's no regulation or no requirement, I don't think they're going to do it because they want to sell the house. So we're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place on this. So I think it's really up to the buyer to do their homework and really research the surrounding area before they buy. So I don't know. Anyway, Susan, you had a question, Susan Wilcox?
No, I just wanted to say that I applaud your due diligence in trying to make this more open. I just have a question. And again, I went onto the website to try and find some of these pages. So my understanding is they're not on there yet, but they will be.
Not yet.
Okay.
We're working on it. We're working on it. If we can try to get as much up as possible for the next meeting so we can show it to people.
Yeah, because I wanted to sign up for that, information thing, and I couldn't. Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Wait, no, don't go away.
I'm not.
Wait, there's more. You can still help out.
Okay.
So
I'm listening.
I'm not saying you can't help out. So, you and Mike can get together, or, when I can work with you, however, but.
Okay. No, thank you.
I'm not putting these commissioners in a cubicle and saying you can't work outside that. I hope commissioners overlap with others and we all have kind of this symbiotic relationship that gets things done. That's what I'm hoping for.
I appreciate that, Huntley, because I was attempting to contact another commissioner and was suggested that I not do it. So now I understand that it's a viable option to be able to talk. Is it just 2 commissioners or is it 3?
It depends on what you talk about, and we can, I'll tell you about this offline.
Okay, thank you.
And Susan, you can sign up. Terry said if they get an email, since they haven't, the button isn't ready yet, but emails to Terry can get you on that list right now.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike.
You're welcome.
All right, moving on. Mrs. Gibbs?
Yes, thank you. I just want to make one statement. Instead of, I understand the due diligence and real estate brokers should not have to obviously disclose all kinds of things. But what I find really odd is that we have a pretty much well-defined runway protection zone. And whatever goes on in there, there should be some coordination between the Zoning Board of Appeals, the selectmen, affordable housing, the airport, Mass DOT. I mean, they're spending $5 million on the roundabout in the middle of the runway protection zone. Is that a good or a bad thing? I don't know. But did Mass DOT road highways talk to Mass DOT aeronautical? I doubt it. That there's a lack of communication. We're putting in Habitat for Humanity homes right in the middle of the runway protection zone. Does Habitat for Humanity know that? They're building new homes. I'm just saying that
I know.
ZBA should not be issuing variances on homes and special permits on existing homes in there if it's making them bigger or higher or whatever else. And I think that's what's lacking. We've only got 6,000 people in this town and nobody talks to each other. And I'm going on record. I'm a big fan of the airport. My kids have gone there since they were tiny. It is a gem. And I don't live near the airport, but I do understand the issues and the concerns of the residents and the people and future buyers. And we have got to somehow come to a consensus that we all want the same thing. I think the ZBA, the Planning Board, and the Board of Selectmen, and the Historic Commission, whoever the heck the commissions are, they all have to be on the same page as it relates to the airport.
Well, Mrs. Gibbs, I would suggest that you go to the ZBA and say just that. I would suggest you go to the Planning Board and say just that. The Airport Commission has...
That is not my job. No, that's your job.
Well, you're a citizen in the community.
To establish the runway protection zone, not me. I got quite enough on my plate here. That's your job as the Airport Commission to, you're appointed by the Board of Selectmen, talk to the Board of Selectmen, let them talk to the other boards, but it's not up to private citizens, and that's the problem. A lot of the people that are here tonight have put in so much time, more with all due respect than a lot of you guys, and they have been diminished and they've been insulted as if they're stupid. And we are not. You have a highly educated bunch of people in this town that you should look to, respect, and but it's your job ultimately to work with the town. You're appointed by them, not us. We're just trying to protect our property values and the safety and the environment of the people who live here. And guess what? We own the airport. We do, the taxpayers. Thank you.
Commissioner Cortese?
Yes, I'll refrain for right now. Thank you. You can come back to me in a minute.
All right. One last question on this topic, Mr. Bixby. One last.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate that it is your responsibility, if you're the sponsor. I still don't know who the sponsor is in Chatham, but it is the sponsor's responsibility under the grant assurances to take steps to, among other things, use real estate disclosure to advise prospective buyers that they are buying property near an airport. That is a contract that you guys, the Airport Commission, signed with the FAA. See, I wish you guys would take the trouble to read your agreements. You don't seem to understand the responsibility you took on when you take this money from the FAA. It's in your agreement that you are responsible for, among other things, real estate disclosure. You have to take the lead on that. That's the contract you agreed to.
Can I ask you a question, please?
Yes,
How am I supposed to know if someone's
I
buying
know.
a house in an approach zone or somewhere else? If
You
the
don't
real
have
estate
to
agent doesn't
personally,
notify us.
you don't have to personally do it, Huntley, but it should be the policy. You guys should have an intelligent policy that you communicate these requirements to whomever it has to be. I mean, I don't want to design your solution for you. If you give me the task and give me the authority, I'll set it up. Do you want me to do that? Or can you guys do it?
Well, you and I can
Because it's
talk
your,
offline.
the FAA saw sufficient reason to put that into the grant agreement. They think it can be done. I think it can be done. I know it's done in other states and in other communities. I don't know why it's impossible to do this in Chatham. But regardless, you agreed to do it.
Well, you and I
So
might
I
be,
think
working
it's
on this
way overdue.
offline. That's it. You and I might be working on this offline.
Okay, great, thanks.
All right? You just send me an
Got
email, send an email to the commission, and when I see it, I'll be able to respond, and hopefully I'll have some answers for you by that point, or we'll figure out how.
I'm not looking for, this isn't a question.
Oh,
I'm
I know,
looking
it's a
for
discussion. Yeah. Yep.
Well, I'm asking you to actually do it.
Yep. Okay.
I'm done, sorry.
All right.
Hands down.
Mike, is this pertinent? I'd like to move on.
Just quickly, if I could.
Yep.
I just want to say we're all looking forward to working with the community and more. There's a great wealth of knowledge that we can tap and access here, and also awareness for the airport. But please give us some latitude here, as Commissioner Harrison just took over the position, and there's a lot of new people on the commission. So if you could make some requests, and then also if you have something specific, Mr. Bixby, if you could send that along as to where that is for me to look at, I would appreciate it. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, and now we're going to go on to the next thing, which is the Citizens Advisory Committee. I want to let the audience know, the community know who's listening in, that this will be a discussion among the commissioners with questions afterwards. I'm sure there'll be lots. It is not an action item for tonight. It's purely discussion, and we'll see where it goes. And but I'm going to talk among the commissioners first, and I want to. I did put something together that I'm going to bring up that I want to read before we start this. And just bear with me until I find it here. I'm almost there. I knew this would be a big discussion. I want to try to give a preamble to what we're talking about. I know we have some new commissioners, so and I know some of the public may need a review on this, so I decided to put this together, which is before we discuss the three options that I put out there in the package for this meeting regarding public involvement. I would like to provide an important review for the three new commissioners, Commissioner Burke, Commissioner Cortese, and Commissioner Wilcox, and also for the public as to why we are at this particular point. The following are the reasons why a Citizens Advisory Committee was not formed at the outset of the AMPU process. From the beginning in July of 2017, the Airport Commission followed the guidelines in FAA Advisory Circular 150/5070-6B, change 2 in 2015.
Listening to a meeting I'm
Air-
supposed to be on. That's okay.
Someone needs to mute their mic, please.
Let me put it this way.
Someone needs to mute their mic. Thank you. Airport Master Plans, Chapter 4, titled Public Involvement Program. Since the commission was dealing with a small airport, it opted to go the route of least complexity and the least cost. Granted, it's still very expensive to run a master plan update. In order not to marginalize anybody, the commission gave the public ample opportunity to be involved in all properly noticed meetings, but did not form a citizens advisory committee nor a technical advisory committee, specifically for the reason of being as transparent as possible throughout the process in their regularly scheduled meetings. The commission felt that a citizens advisory committee would introduce another level of complexity into an already complex and detailed process. To quote the advisory circular referenced earlier, and I quote, "Although the public involvement program is important to the master plan effort, planners must balance the need for stakeholder involvement with the costs of such a process. Complex, large, or unfocused stakeholder groups can impede meaningful input, unnecessarily raise study costs, and frustrate participants as they struggle to communicate with the study group," meaning the Airport Commission. Also at that time, the commission did not know the degree to which the public would take an interest in the master plan update. The commission used their open meetings to discuss and display the plan as it progressed through the chapters. It also dedicated a portion of the town website specifically to post the AMPU chapters and any ancillary materials. Did we do it correctly or well all the time? No, but we're doing the best we can. Our public involvement program was specifically set up from the outset so that all materials, chapter reviews, and discussions were in properly noticed open public meetings so that citizens would have ample opportunity to comment. The commission believed that interested stakeholders would attend the meetings and would comment as it moved forward through the process. Due to comments received from the public during the fall of 2019, it was decided in January 2020 at the commission meeting on the 28th to discuss two options as possible ways to better involve the public. One option was to create a citizens advisory committee. The other option was to do a chapter by chapter review of the AMPU. Both of these were discussed at length with public comment included. When the vote was taken, the vote by the commission was 4-1 in favor of the chapter review based option. One note, the February meetings were canceled due to technical difficulties. At the March 2020 commission meeting, another proposal was put forth for informal small group meetings to provide further opportunities for comments, questions, and answers coinciding with the approved chapter review process. This method is also outlined in the FAA's advisory circular. More public comment ensued at that meeting, and there was further discussion to reconsider the formation of a citizens advisory committee. After much discussion and comment, a vote to take another look at the Citizens Advisory Committee was taken and passed 3-2. On the day after the March meeting, there was the first informal small group discussion meeting. Then, due to the coronavirus, all meetings were shut down, and that brings us to tonight. So now what I'd like to do is go through the various options that I presented in the packet. The first one being option 1, which is and I will try to share my screen, or actually, Terry, can you do that? Can you share the screen?
Yes, yeah, so tell me, I'm gonna pull up option 1 right now.
Okay. So in option 1, I feel it's important to take a look at what a citizens advisory committee would have to do. or how the airport commission would have to organize to get a citizens advisory committee going. I don't know who's bringing up their screen, but I can't do this if whoever it is keeps doing that. Okay, so we need to define the charge for the group as only advisory. They can't make decisions. They can't make votes. It's purely advisory in capacity. We have to define the pool of members. We have to define the time frame for its existence. Will it be an ad hoc group that meets for a certain several months, or will it be a group that meets for a long time? Does it have a budget? And if it does have a budget, whose budget is it? Publicize the information of the group and seek applicants. We have to do that if we're going to do that. And how do we do that? Do we do it in the paper, or do we do it on the Airport Commission website? Obviously, things that have to be decided. We have to set up the interview and selection process. Then we have open meeting law issues that we have to deal with. Is it a formal group? Is it an informal group? Do we need to post meetings as a schedule of meetings like we do for the Airport Commission? Is there remote participation? Well, probably yes. Of course, like I said, notice and posting onto the agenda. Remote participation due to COVID-19 issues. Are there minutes? Who's taking the minutes? Who's publishing the minutes? Do they get returned to the Airport Commission for discussion at our meeting? And then we have, there may be other questions that I have. Sorry, I don't know if that was me or not. And then we can disband the commission, disband the group at the commission discretion. And and like I say, there may be other bullet points here. Now, if we go to the next page, I've given an idea, as I put it together, what it might look like. You get one commissioner who'd chair the group, one pilot, a local business owner, an airport neighbor, and then just one citizen at large. It would be appointed by the Airport Commission with a particular selection criteria. And whether this is an exhaustive list of criteria, I don't know. It's worth conversation. They would have to attend commission meetings and review appropriate sections of meeting minutes via town video and be familiar with the master plan. That would be very important. They would have their own meetings to discuss the commission proceedings on the master plan. And if we could scroll up a little, they would need to have an understanding of the weight of the decisions being considered in the plan and have an interest in the outcome of the study. And they would have to come up to speed quickly with local concerns by meeting with various stakeholders and report back. And I just gave a list of possible stakeholders. You might even, under various agencies, put real estate agencies. They would have to be comfortable providing recommendations and commendations to the commission. They would help the commission come to consensus with controversial matters and provide possible alternative solutions. They would advise the commission on policy decisions that will probably need to be made throughout the process. And they would need to document the key issues and concerns and ensure the commission is aware of them. So that's the first option. All right. Before we get into the details on any of these, I would like to go to option 2, just so we see them all, we know what the different things are. And I'm not saying option 1, 2, or 3 are exhaustive. As we discuss this, we may come up with other options that might even be better. I don't know. But as I said, we're not taking action on this tonight. We will have time, and I'm hoping that if people have comments on this, they'll get them back by January 6th so we can review them and get them into the next, for discussion, further discussion in the next meeting. For option 2, this goes back to the chapter review process where we go through and we look at each chapter. And again, I think people have to understand that some of these chapters have been submitted, and if there's a substantial change, I'm not quite sure we'll be able to do that. But we can discuss and see what comes out of the conversation. The next bullet down, the commission will consider only new information relevant to the AMPU, not information we've already covered in previous meetings. That's all posted. And for any questions that have been covered previously, there'll be a reference for them, either through FAA guidelines, Federal Aviation Regulations, MassDOT guidelines, commission frequently asked questions, meeting minutes, etc. And then at each meeting, which the master plan, at each meeting during which an AMPU chapter will be discussed, the commission will provide an overview of the chapters to be covered in the meeting, listen to the questions pertaining to those chapters, answer the questions at that or subsequent meetings, and notify the public of the next chapters to be covered. And then we'll continue this process until we've completed the review of the AMPU. Note that this process is flexible within certain constraints: budget, availability of Mr. Karen from Gale, grant assurance, compliance, and possibly some other things that I'm not aware of. All right, that's option 2. Option 3 is similar to what we had that one meeting on last March 11th, and that was that small informal group meeting to discuss the master plan and provide additional opportunities for public input for the master plan and have this open discussion. These would not be, as I said, these are informal meetings. These would not be meetings that would necessarily have minutes. There would be a monitor or a moderator, I should say, for the meeting, probably a commissioner. And it would be an open discussion for about an hour, hour and a half to take the concerns of the people there and pass them on to the airport commission. So like I say, there will be a series of 3 or 4 of those meetings, maybe more if necessary. As I say, using a interactive format and to gather public feedback. And like I said, these are open to anybody: airport abutters, town residents, businesses, and other stakeholders. And we would advertise these in the paper and on our website. And to do this, it's really to facilitate public involvement and help refine the AMPU. These meetings will take place by remote participation and be moderated by an airport commissioner, as I said earlier. And then anyone with questions that have not been addressed at the earlier airport commission meetings or by materials on the town website, and I've given you the website address there, will be urged to attend these informal meetings. And then like I said, the consultant from Gale will be there. And at these meetings, probably have to find a budget item for that, for him to attend, because basically our funding for the master plan has pretty much run out, so that we're trying to close it out financially. And finally, the master plan update is a planning document only. And I think we all have to remember that is planning document only. The items contained in the document are included to enable the FAA and MassDOT to examine and determine their feasibility. So, and then meeting schedules will be determined depending on where we go. So those are the 3 things that I put out and put together and proposed moving forward. Probably what we'll wind up with is a hybrid, but I'm not sure. So I'm first opening it up to comments from the commissioners. Thank you, Terry. Comments from the commissioners, and then we'll move on to the public. So far, so good? Okay. All right, we'll move to the public.
No.
Mr. Buckley. You there?
Yes,
Okay.
I've checked the FAA guidance on community involvement. There's actually two circulars. One's on community involvement, and the other one's that you had mentioned, Huntley, about Chapter 4. I forget the exact one, but
Chapter 4,
anyway.
within revision 2.
Right. So there's a body of knowledge out there that's been refined over many years, and not just a handful of people in a little town in New England, that I'm asking and requesting that the board consider, and maybe even I would think if I was the FAA, I would want to know why it why this in this particular case you're not referring to their guidance. I mean, it appears to me when I read their guidance and I look at what's being proposed in these 3 different scenarios, it looks like just something that was basically home cooking. There's no recipe. They didn't say, we don't need no recipe book. We just came up with this. And I'm not saying it's bad. It's just the idea that you're reinventing the wheel that's been invented by many cooks, you know, in this area. So that's my concern is that you're ignoring advice that's been refined over many years. You don't have to follow the advice. It's just advice. But why start all over and, like I said, reinvent something that there are actually professionals, a community of practice of people. I go to conferences on public participation, and people give presentations on how to do good community involvement. And I don't see any reference to the FAA's advice or to them. The same way that pilots know a lot about aviation, this is an example of where the experts are not pilots, are not regular people, you know, who have other jobs. There are experts out there in public involvement, and they're also at the FAA. They have community planning office, so they know this stuff. And so all I'm asking is that if anything that's done is always should be referred to and say, well, what does the FAA say or suggest before you go off and do something, you know, arbitrarily? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. We'll move on. Thank you. I appreciate your comments. Jerry Plant. Renee, you're down, couple down. Jerry, you there? All right, we'll come back to him.
Okay, yep, I'm here.
All right.
Real quick, Chairman Huntley, under selection criteria on your option 1, I would like to suggest that anyone involved in previous litigation against the airport or anyone in a group that was involved with previous litigation against the airport be disqualified from being considered for that commission due to obvious conflict of interest.
Right. No, that goes without saying. Yeah, absolutely. As airport commissioner, I wouldn't allow that. There are plenty of other people. There are plenty of other people who could do that.
I agree.
Okay, Commissioner Wilcox.
Okay, a couple things. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Under the FAA Circular Advisory, I just want to quote, it says, and again, these are just suggestions, but types of master plan studying. Number 2 is public involvement. It states, quote, once the consultant's team is under contract and has been issued a notice to proceed, establish a public involvement program and identify, document, and key issues of various stakeholders. Now, again, we can debate as to whether that was done adequately prior to some of the chapters being admitted or not. I venture to say, from my opinion, it wasn't, but that's my own opinion. Number 2, as I look, and thank you again for putting this stuff together, Huntley, but are you the one that put these option 1, 2, and 3? That was your, okay, good. Thank you. I looked at, and I've got them right here, the options that you, of 1 and 2 that you submitted in January.
Right.
And
I modified those.
Excuse me?
I modified those.
You're not a what?
I modified those. I'm sorry, that's coming through garbled.
Can you hear me?
Modified them.
I modified them.
Okay, yes, you modified them, but the parameters are a lot less inclusive. In the first one, you had between 5 and 9 members, which included 1 to 2 citizens at large, 1 to 2 neighbors, et cetera, et cetera. And then on number 2, appointed by, the new one you have just by airport commission. In the one that you was put together in January, it was airport commission, town manager, and other. There's a lot of stuff that I think should be put back into it if that's going to be considered an option.
I don't know why I'm getting this. Hang on.
Sure.
Okay. Someone else might have a mic open somewhere, and that might be causing problems. I don't know. I took some of those other names off after our meeting on the 1st with the Board of Selectmen that made very clear the statutory authority of the Airport Commission. So the decision on forming that group is on the commission and no one else. We have the authority to do that.
Understood.
So that's why I took that off.
But again, I would suggest that you might be a little bit more inclusive to add some of the options or some of the stuff that was put in the option 1 in the first place. And lastly, during the discussion of option 2,
Yep.
you said something to the effect of the chapters that have already been submitted to the FAA, quote, cannot be changed because they've already been submitted. So it's counterintuitive. If we have a advisory group, you know, you can talk about what the crux of the issue is, but if the chapters have already been submitted and can't be changed and there's still problems, then that's an issue. And again, that is one of the reasons, and I'm going to say this again, that I'd like to have a motion that you delay the discussion at least of chapter 7 and 9 until after an advisory committee has been appointed, because you clearly stated before that the ones that have already been submitted cannot be changed. And again, that's my opinion. Thank you.
Okay. I think it depends on the type of change it is, but I will find that out. I'm sorry about the echo. I don't know why that's happening. All right. Another commissioner. No, they went off the air. Let's see. Wait a minute. Another commissioner. David Owens.
Yes,
Turn on your mic.
it's on.
I thought I saw you there. Yep.
You have Mike Cortese.
Turn up your volume. I'm losing you. Do you want us to come back to you? No. Can't hear. David, we'll come back to you. All right. Hang on, we'll come back to you. Keep your hand up. All right. I'll move up and see if I see any other commissioners with their hand up. No. Oh, Mike Cortese?
Yes, Commissioner Harrison. I just want to say a comment on number 1, 2, and 3. I appreciate and welcome, public comment and opinion. Many minds with a common mission and goal are better than a few. But I feel that Citizens Advisory Committee is a bit of a duplication of our existing process. If we move forward with it, it should be structured as the only channel for public input, or one of the only channels for public input to the commission. We could accommodate this by having an open meeting format and an airport commissioner as liaison. The airport commission will then present, the airport commissioner for that liaison would then present recommendations.
Someone's rattling paper, if you please. It makes it
Not me.
very difficult, and the hour is getting late. I'm just so you all know, I'm not going past 8 o'clock.
So I was going to say, by having this and that airport commissioner's liaison, that airport commissioner will then present the recommendations for the airport commission to discuss. That's the way I see, only possible way the Citizens Advisory Commission is working. But I think an option, a combination, if we had to do a hybrid of 1 and 3, would work. I do not feel that option 2 is a good idea. I think we've presented that. We've had public comment, and reviews available online on Channel 18, and you can review the past airport commission meetings where the current chapters that have been covered have been deliberated. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, David, I think I've got you now. Go ahead.
Okay, hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, I had been sitting in on airport commission meetings when they were back at the airport, when the first concerns and complaints were coming in from the skydivers. And I thought that the airport commission, the representatives from Gale, and the airport manager did a great job by supplying a tremendous amount of information for the complainants to answer the ifs, ands, and whys about things that were going on at the airport, and directed them to websites that the FAA had and MassDOT to find out all this information, as it wasn't, I don't think it's any commission's job or group of people's job to be teachers on this. It's just to make sure that everything's being followed. No more than you'd go down and get a plumbing permit and expect the plumbing inspector to tell you how to put in a heat in your house, or go into great detail of how plumbing is done. I don't know if back then the people didn't want to listen, didn't want to look up the information or not, but I see that trend has continued, and even since being a commissioner, at several meetings, people would ask questions and have concerns about things. We've given them answers. We've sent them suggested places they can find the answers, and the complaining is still going on. And the misinformation is still running rampant. I would probably be against having an advisory committee, but continue allowing public input, questions and answers at meetings pertaining to the agenda. And if they had other comments, to send them in by email, and they could be answered as best we could, as quickly as we could.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to move up to, no more commissioners. I'll move up to the top of my list.
Wait.
And I've got, oh, I do have one more. Okay, Mr. Commissioner Galen.
Matt Karen, are you still with us? Matt?
Yes, Mike, I'm here.
Okay, two questions, please. At this point in time, what kind of changes can be submitted to chapters that have been approved or accepted? I should say not approved, but accepted.
I mean, that's a good question. So you've submitted your airport layout plan, which includes the preferred alternatives of the Airport Commission. I would say that each and every year, like we've discussed in the past, you have your capital improvement plan meetings with the FAA and MassDOT.
Right.
If there were changes in or shifts in priorities for the Airport Commission, changes in facility needs at the airport, those would certainly warrant a change or a revisit to projects that have been highlighted or outlined in the master plan.
Okay, so for example, chapters 1 through 4, which aren't really that type of chapter. If we wanted to make any changes, any idea of what's allowable at this point?
I mean, if we needed to do some sort of supplemental revision to any one of those chapters, I could certainly have that conversation with the FAA and see how they would like to proceed on that. Yeah, Mike, I guess it just depends on what exactly it is you're looking to change, I guess.
Okay. And the second question is, what's the time frame on the grant? At what point do we have to finish this in order to stay within the parameters of the grant?
Yeah, so at this point, I think we're pushing, the better part of 2.5 years, if I'm not mistaken, with the master plan. The FAA is certainly looking forward to these final 2 chapters being closed out so that they can receive a copy of the full master plan.
Okay, was there any forgiveness for the COVID shutdown, do you think?
It's certainly something I could discuss with the FAA for sure.
I mean, because we were prohibited, in our case, we were prohibited from any meetings, even off-site ones, between March and November.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. And, for example, I know that certainly in chapter 4, the forecasts, you can't change the forecasts. The forecasts are the forecasts. So, that's one thing that couldn't be changed. All right, we'll go up to the public. I don't think I see another. Oh, okay. Go ahead, Mike.
Just a quick question for Matt again. So you're, just to clarify, we need to wrap this master plan up quickly as an FAA requirement.
Yes, the grants do have expiration dates on them. So yeah, that is correct. You do need to wrap this up at some point here. There's 2 chapters, Chapter 7 and Chapter 9, none of which have any effect or bearing on the preferred alternatives at the airport selected, nor do they have any effect on the airport layout plan.
Correct. And just to reiterate, this is just an absolute planning document. Each part will be discussed and voted on later, correct?
Yeah, so every single project that's been identified as a preferred alternative by the Airport Commission and subsequently has made its way onto the airport layout plan, all of those projects, before there's any commitment by the funding agencies, there needs to be a demonstrated need and justification for the projects. They simply just don't fund projects on an if you build it, they will come basis. There needs to be a justification for it. Each year, as I stated, there's a capital improvement plan meeting with both the FAA and Mass DOT. And that is where those projects and these questions get fleshed out. And again, if there's a shift in priorities for the airport or capital improvement needs at the airport, then certainly the projects would change to meet that need.
Okay, so the quicker we get this wrapped up, then we can get on to the real work of actually discussing what the projects are. But at this point, it's very preliminary.
So we know what the preferred alternatives are from the Airport Commission. They've made that selection. Those preferred alternatives get put on the airport layout plan, and those preferred alternatives that are on the airport layout plan are exactly what we are evaluating in the environmental assessment as we speak.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
You're welcome.
Ms. Gibbs?
Yes, thank you. I have 2 questions first. Mr. Chairman, you had said that the finances are running out, and so you want to close out the AMPU. What exactly does that mean? How much money is left and how much is left to get this done?
I don't have that in front of me. I don't know. I'd have to check it out.
All right. Well, I mean, to say it's running out and that's the motivation for closing out the AMPU concerns me. It shouldn't be closed out because we're running out of money. We should get the work done. And for Matt, you said there's an expiration date and we need to wrap it up. But I haven't heard of an I still heard 2.5 years. Does that mean we have 2.5 years or we don't have to? What is the expiration date? When are we supposed to get, finished with the AMPU review to get it to the FAA? Because my understanding is 2023 is when it expires. That's 2 years from now.
No, Mr. Chairman, I'll get you exactly what the FAA needs and when they need it by. That 2023 number, I'm not sure where that comes from, but that is unrelated to this master plan project.
All right, well, I mean, we're talking money here and we're talking expiration dates, but nobody's got a date, which I find really bizarre. In terms of the Citizen Advisory Committee, I think option 2, if I can get to my notes here, is the way all meetings should be run. You know, going chapter by chapter, having public information. I don't think we need an advisory committee to do that. In terms of option 1, which is the commission, to set up an advisory committee, I know that this, Huntley, you just put this together, you know, but to have 5 members, one's a commissioner who could be a pilot, and then number 2 is a pilot.
No, I would make sure that the commissioner is not a pilot.
All right, but to have only 5 members for a citizen advisory committee where one is a local business owner, there are approximately 40 business owners in the West Chatham runway that's an exaggeration. Within the runway protection zone, there's probably less than that. And then the airport neighbors, I'd say there's 1,500, and then a citizen at large, there's 6,000. So to have one of each, I think, is heavily weighted onto the airport commission when the commissioner running it is already on the commission, and then the pilot is already a pilot. In terms of selection criteria, I'm just looking at myself as a citizen at large, and I am not applying for this. But I'd have to have knowledge, aviation and airport operations knowledge, technical competency, and be a stakeholder in the airport. I'm none of those 3. And yet I'm a citizen and I'm a taxpayer and I'm a sponsor because.
Well, if you remember correctly, I said that list was not exhaustive. That criteria list was not exhaustive. I just put down things that came to my head.
Right,
If
and
if you have other options you'd like me to know about, then, you know, I'm trying to write things down, but, you know, send an email.
Okay, I'm just trying to tell you that I don't think this is the vision of what people thought was a Citizens Advisory Commission, nor did I think that we were going to have to go out and actually stop people coming off of charter planes and interviewing them. I don't think you guys have done that.
I don't think you need to do that either.
Well, that's what it says. Interview travelers, charter plane passengers, and others.
Well, Tim, do you know any people that come to visit the Cape?
By plane?
No, not necessarily by plane.
No, I don't want to debate your specific things. I'm saying this isn't not what I would envision as a citizens advisory. What I would see it as like 15 people that have volunteered that don't necessarily, but they are members of the community. And then it is open to the public so that they can come in and talk about their concerns. And it would be videotaped. You don't have to hire someone for the minutes as long as it's on video, because I've been on meetings with small working groups and it is a closed, non-transparent process, and it's inappropriate.
I actually like your idea because you're actually describing option 3.
Well,
because that option is open to the public. It could have 15 people there. It could have 50 people there. And we were recording those proceedings. That one meeting we had. That's what we did. And it was actually a very successful meeting. And so I thank you for promoting that.
But I would also caveat that by saying what I heard one commissioner say is that this would be in lieu of these meetings where you have public comment. And that is absolutely
no, they do not. The informal meetings do not supplant the regular scheduled commission meetings.
All right. Well, that would not be appropriate at all.
In the plan last year, they did not supplant the regular scheduled airport meetings.
I am not saying that this is where I am on this. I'm offering you my constructive opinions here, but I do believe that there has to be a further discussion because I know other people haven't weighed in on this. But my sense is that the way the Citizens Advisory Committee is, it's way too restrictive. And there too much is left open to just a small group of people choosing those people. And I don't think that's the way to go.
Okay.
So thank you very much.
I appreciate your comments. Next on my list here is Mr. Haas. Ladies and gentlemen, just as we go forward, please be as brief and succinct as possible.
Okay, thank you, Chairman Harrison. I only wanted to make one statement about the document that Mr. Buckley referred to, which I believe was, and I'm paraphrasing, is guidelines for community involvement that was written by the FAA. And I received a link to that document, which I perused, and it just important for your and for the public to understand that. And I was looking for it while we were discussing. I can't find it at the moment, but in one of the first chapters, who is this manual written for? It states this is for FAA employees who are contemplating a project, at an airport, which leads one to, clear conclusion. This is something it's a big book. It's one size fits all. It's for the FAA when they're expanding or adding a runway to Logan Airport. It's got to work for that. It's got great ideas in it, and they're wonderful. But you have to understand, that what we are doing in the scheme of airport plans is actually a very modest improvement in safety. There's no runway expansions. There's nothing global here. So that's just, the public needs to know that these documents are one size fits all. And that one size is not Chatham Airport. We are the smallest of the airports in the NPIA or whatever in Massachusetts. The smallest, the shortest runway, the most residential. So people need to factor that. We should have the most lean, process for doing this. So what you said earlier, Chairman Huntley, I just wanted to echo that when you're considering these different options. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Fessenden.
Hi. Hi, am I unmuted? This is
I hear you.
Art Fessenden. I just wanted to say very quickly, because I know time's running out, that in my view, this has been a very open process. It's been going on for a number of years. There have been multiple meetings. Is the process perfect? No, it is not. But I think sometimes that we're losing track of the ultimate goal here, which is that we're all trying to make the airport safer. And I think that's the common ground. In fact, Susan, you said at the last meeting, I thought quite eloquently, that was what you cared about most. And yes. Thank you for that comment, because I think that's what most of us ultimately care about most. And so what this MPU document does is it moves the airport forward into the modern world. It's all about modernization. And I feel like we're bogging down with all sorts of issues related to process and ancillary issues, which don't achieve what I think we all agree is the ultimate goal, which is improving safety. So I ask people to be thinking about that as we try to proceed, because now we've heard from a couple of people here that there's a time limit here, that we don't have endless years to discuss this. And I feel that we really need to move the process forward. A couple people have mentioned that. And in order to enhance safety, we have to actually implement some of what we're talking about.
Art, thank you very much. The next, I've got another commissioner raising his hand. I'm not, by the way, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more speakers. I'm not taking any more speakers after that. Commissioner Galen.
No.
No.
No, my hand was up. I apologize.
Okay, next is Commissioner Wilcox. Oh, I missed one. Anyway, do you have something quick? I missed Mr. Wilson.
I appreciate what Commissioner Galen had to say. I'm wondering, can we be specific on the time frame when the master plan chapter 7 and 9 need to be submitted?
I think if I'm not mistaken, it all has bearing on the CIP, the improvement plan.
I understand. Could I check with the Gale Associates to find out what he was going to say? Because
I think he's still there.
Still here. Can you repeat that question though, Susan, please?
First of all, I'm asking that we don't discuss chapter 7 and 9, because I'd like it to have a citizen advisory.
I know, we'll talk about that.
No,
I've already said-
what is the time frame that this needs to be submitted by? Do we have some time available so that we do not need to discuss chapters 7 and 9 next week or next month?
I have a call with the FAA tomorrow morning, and I will grab that exact answer if they can provide that. And I will turn that back over to Huntley, and I will have him pass that message along.
Well, where did we come up with the 2.5 years at some point? Because I do
It's
remember
based on when the grant was actually issued to the town and to the airport commission. And then the FAA does have time constraints when they want those grant applications closed out.
Which grant are we talking about?
I thought we were talking about the master plan, are we not?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Wilson?
Hi, thank you, Chairman Harrison. I had concerns earlier in the evening during the engineer's report about the airport layout plan. And what I believe I just heard Matt from Gale say is that because the airport layout plan got submitted and approved, the preferred alternative that the commission had for a new approach to the airport is on that airport layout plan. And now that is approved by the FAA in terms of being on the airport layout plan. And it's recognized as the preferred alternative. Whereas the airport master plan is just a planning document. I understand that differential, that for things to get money from the FAA, they need to be on the airport layout plan. And the commission's preferred alternative for an approach is on the airport layout plan. And this process that you had up on your website here, where you missed all of these steps for the public to have input before the airport layout plan got submitted, this process, to me, feels like it was hijacked between the fall of 2019 and October of 2020, when we found out that the airport layout plan had been submitted in June. To me, that's a big problem in terms of transparency. Huntley, your commission told us that this wasn't going to happen until after you had approved the full draft of the master plan. And yet it has happened. And so that preferred alternative that was first discovered by the public back in the summer of last year is now on a layout plan that's been submitted and signed off on. That's not transparency. In fact, that to me is a hijack of the whole process, and you cut our voices off. We had no opportunity to give any feedback on that. We need this addressed. I would like to see that airport layout plan withdrawn because it didn't follow the process that you told us it was going to follow.
Sure.
I'd like to see it withdrawn from the FAA and from Mass DOT, and another one put in after the full master plan has been drafted, reviewed by the public, allowed to give input by the public, and then approved by you. That's what I'd like to see you do what you said you were going to do. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for your comments. I noticed there's some people who have raised their hands after I said I was going to cut off because of time constraints. And I'm sorry, I apologize to those last people. I've got one more commissioner, and then I'm going to have to cut off conversation on this. Those of you who want to comment, please send an email into the commission, to the airport commission, and we will go through it and see. I cannot, because of time, take any more. 3 hours is long enough, and we can pick this up next time. One more commissioner, Mike Cortese, and then that's going to end the conversation on this.
All right, thank you, Chairman Harrison. I'll make this brief and just wrap up. I just wanted to address Mr. Wilson and Mrs. Gibb on the options. For option one, that would have public input, and that would be the sole avenue of public input, especially for the master plan. That was my thought on that. For option two, you can access that. That's been deliberated, and this is also addressing Mr. Wilson. I've been following airport commission meetings for many, many years, and all that, I believe, has been deliberated and discussed in previous meetings, and you can review all that on the town's website. Just to reiterate also, we can really not get to any work, as I understand it, until the master plan is submitted. So it's imperative that we get the master plan submitted, then we can actually finally get to the real work of deliberating what's going to happen. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. That'll end discussion on the master plan and the on the options for reviewing the master plan. Because of the time, I'm going to, that was discussion only. Because of the time, I'm going to have to, I want a motion from the commissioners on moving item F, the commission review of changes to chapter 7 and 9 to the January meeting. Do I have a motion on that?
I make a motion to move it 7 and 9. Sorry, did that go?
Yep.
January.
I second that.
And Commissioner Wilcox seconds that. Roll call vote. Commissioner Burke?
Yes.
The motion is to table
Yes.
letter F, the airport master plan update, review of changes to chapter 7 and 9 to January.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Cortese?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Donovan?
Yes.
Commissioner Galen?
Yes.
Commissioner Owens?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilcox?
Yes, and thank you.
And Commissioner Harrison, yes. It's unanimous. That topic will be on the next meeting, and hopefully between now and then we will have some information regarding the topic we just went through and hopefully come up with a plan. And I encourage people who may not have gotten to speak tonight and those who did get a chance to speak tonight to send something into us so we have that information. Remember, as I said earlier, it has to be in by January 6th if it wants to be considered, if you want it to be considered. We just don't have time to process the information, and I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of it. Excuse me. All right, moving on, and I hope this is quick, but the next section is on public comments. And like I said, we're right at the end of the meeting. And I'm sorry, but these things took a long time. And is there anyone with any public comment? Hopefully someone who hasn't spoken in the past, something new. Mr. Glover. Okay, Ms. Gibbs? I'm not hearing. Mrs. Gibbs,
I will make it quick. I apologize.
Your mic is
Is it
there you
on?
go. Go ahead.
I apologize. It's quick, but this is not only about making the airport safe for pilots, but it's for residents, their quality of life, noise, odors, property values, and the environment, and the financial impact to all residents in the town, because we are the sponsors and the taxpayers. And the only other thing is I want to make sure that what's driving this entire process going forward is not the cost of what we're paying Gale Associates, and we're running out of money, because that's short money in terms of what, maybe they're not the people to pay, but the future of the town is dependent on getting this right. So what I want to know is, what is the FAA timeline? And that I want to make sure we're taking advantage of that and using it properly so that we can get the answers and get it done right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. Mr. Haas?
Thank you, Chairman Harrison. Last final short comments, under 2 minutes, I guarantee. And that is that I'd like to just ask the commission to firmly establish the safety of the new type of approaches that it is proposing. Right now, there's still many folks that are concerned that the Airport Commission is actually reducing safety with their plans. That's still a perception. As a pilot who's personally experienced these approaches, I can testify to their greatly enhanced safety. But that doesn't sway members of the public that have been given the opposite misinformation by some airport neighbors. So the Airport Commission needs to publish information that has been created by subject matter experts that are independent of any agenda in Chatham. Last March, the Commission voted to go forward with a public relations campaign to truthfully explain the Commission's plans. Also, any doubters, for those plans just need to ask themselves why the Commission would propose something that is less safe than we currently have. Commissioners have no ties with charter operators and have no reason to favor them in preference to the overall safety of the Chatham community. These basic things must be established in order to obtain the full backing and confidence of the Chatham community at large, including the Select Board. At the end of the day, I think there's one thing that we can all agree on, and that is that the safety of the Chatham community and that surrounding the airport is paramount. Thank you.
Can you hear me now?
I don't know who that is, but whoever it is, I can hear you. Mike, real quick, is this quick?
Yes, you referring to me?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, I just wanted to add quickly, I'm a property owner in town as well, and I'm concerned with the safety, noise, and I'm looking to balance all of that, also with being a pilot and having a safe access to the airport, which I use as some people would use their car or boat in town. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Okay. Mr. Glover, quick.
Yeah, thanks. I hope you can hear me now.
Yes,
I want to thank everybody for this meeting. I would have a recommendation for the chairman who does such a good job. But the reason we're short of time is you gave a long speech to begin with in which you accused people of putting out misinformation. I personally have heard a lot of misinformation come out from the Airport Commission. And I don't think it's necessary to have read all those documents online. That would have given us another 10 minutes so the public wouldn't be cut out of their time to give their talk. So just a recommendation to keep these talks down a little bit shorter. Thanks.
Duly noted. Thank you. 2 more. That's it. Mr. Quinn?
Thanks, Commissioner Harrison. I've been on this call for over 3 hours now, and I'm just a little bit confused over what I'm hearing. If we're all supposed to be pulling this rope in the same direction to try and get the safety increased at the airport, which, by the way, I'm 100% for, why are we arguing about process and people wanting stuff since 1949 put up on the website and talking about real estate agents' fiduciary responsibilities and ethical responsibilities? And it seems to me like things are getting off track really quickly. The real comment I want to make with this COVID vaccines coming out and things like that, that all has to be distributed somehow. And I'm just thinking of airplanes coming into Chatham Airport to deliver for the Lower Cape and the Outer Cape, and they can't get in here because they don't have an approach that gets them down safely to the proper minimum so that they can land the airplane full of COVID vaccine. That's just one example. Or somebody has to go out and get into Beth Israel Hospital because they can't take a 2-hour car ride from Truro, and the airplane can't get out and it can't get back in. These are the kind of safety improvements that I think the Airport Commission is trying to do, and we're getting all bogged down in how much NDB or Beacon's cost and real estate fiduciary responsibilities and just off-topic type things. So I just wanted to say thanks. I thought the meeting was very, very informative. I just wish we could kind of corral some of the comments to, the way Huntley's trying to keep the comments down to the topic at hand and not go out on these tangents for like 20 minutes or 30 minutes. And I think that would have given us a lot more time.
Yep.
Thanks a lot, everyone.
Mr. Quinn, thank you. I have one more. Mr. Bixby, I'm sorry. I already announced that I was only going to take 2 more. We'll catch you next time or send an email. Mr. Gersberger? Yeah, you've got to unmute, Peter. You got to unmute.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Can we hear you now?
Well, first of all, I want to commend you and the commission. I know you have been dealing with a contentious issue for an extended period of time. I've attended a lot of the commission meetings, and I must say there has not been a lack of public input. Meeting after meeting, quite frankly, I've heard the same things, the same objections, the same concerns. And I have to echo that safety is a key issue, and that is what the FAA is primarily concerned with. So when people like Mr. Buckley cite the FAA with respect to what the public involvement must be, I find it very interesting that we ignore what the FAA has to say about circling approaches and how unsafe they are and how they favor, as well as ICAO favor, straight-in approaches with vertical guidance. My biggest question to all of you, I hope we're all on the same page. We want safety, and we want safety not only for pilots, but for people on the ground. So what is our overall objective? If I listen to the people who are concerned, it seems to me that they're more concerned with limiting the airport, shutting down the airport, and possibly even eliminating the airport. So if we're going to have an advisory commission, if in fact that is a good idea, I would love to know if we're on the same page in terms of what is the objective? What are we trying to arrive at? And if we can't do that, we're just wasting each other's time. I've been going to these meetings since skydiving came up, and it's the same stuff, the same complaining, and we're not making much progress. So thank you for your indulgence, Mr. Chairman. And I really want to thank all the commissioners for the work that you all do.
Thank you. All right. That concludes the Airport Commission agenda for the evening. I hope, as I said earlier, that people will send us emails so we can take care of it and get the January meeting organized. By the way, the January meeting is on the 13th. And if you get your emails to us by the 6th, we will do our best to take care of them and answer them. All right. And also the agenda requests that we had. We'll try to manage that as best we can as well. All right. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Here's a good one for you. Any discussion? All right. Roll call. Commissioner Burke.
Here.
Commissioner Cortese.
Here.
Commissioner Donovan.
Yep.
Commissioner Galen.
Yes.
Commissioner Owens.
Yes.
Commissioner Wilcox.
Yes.
And Commissioner Harrison. Yes. I declare the
Goodbye.
meeting adjourned. Thank you all very much for your time and effort, and thank you for the public for enduring 3 hours and 15 minutes of meeting. I appreciate that. Hopefully in January it'll be a little shorter. Thank you very much. You can all sign off.